subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Their existence is protect the interests of the nobility. The 7th Division is the Imperial Guards of the General Corps. It can be regarded as directly belonging to the 1st Division, that is, the subordinates of the General Division. They are responsible for assisting the 1st Division to suppress the rebellion. Fan Team. Maintain the order of the Suriidii and ensure that there will be no turmoil in the Soul Society during the annihilation of the Quincy. The 8th Division, as an intelligence team, Captain Yamamoto looked at Kaiaraka Shunsui and gave the order, collect all information about the Quincy as soon as possible to determine the changes in the Quincy over the past few hundred years. Over the centuries, some of the fighting styles of the Shinigami have changed, and Captain Yamamoto is not sure if the Quincy has changed their fighting styles as well. In other words, the previous information is somewhat outdated. The 9th Division, as a security team, their task is to prepare for early warning at any time. If the situation is not good, they will issue an early warning to Godei 13 so that Godei 13 can respond to all emergencies in advance. The 10th Division is a secret service unit, and their mission is to assist the 8th Division to investigate information about the Quincy Division. The 12th Division is a technical team. In addition to continuing to monitor the number of Hueco Mundo in the real world, it must also be prepared to provide support to combat troops at any time. The 13th Division, as a purification team, most of its members are stationed in the present world, purifying the void in the present world, and at the same time leading the soul to the Soul Society. Existing Quincy Masters all exist in this world. Therefore, the duty of the 13th Division is to meet the Shinigami troops who are going to destroy the Quincy Division. So, which one was the unit that annihilated the Quincy? Of course, the 11th team. As the 11th team of the combat team, only they are capable of this kind of thing. Captain Gosuke, I leave it to you. Looking at Gosuke Shigure, Captain Yamamoto said solemnly. Chapter 51. The Present World, the Edo Period. Gosuke Shigure returned to the 11th team and talked to the members of the 11th team about the task assigned by the captain. Although it was a surprise that the enemy was a Quincy, but the 11th team did not show any attitude. Comparatively speaking, the 11th squad, which is a fighting squad, knows better than many dead Shindu that when they join the 11th squad, their only duty is to fight. As for whether the target of the battle is Sioux or Quincy, they don't have to think about it. Just need to know that this is their mission. Gosuke Shigure also understands this truth. Whether the Quincy is good or bad when Central 46 decides to get rid of them, the captain of the combat team, can only do so. After several days of preparation, the large portals specially prepared to annihilate the combat units of the Quincy Division are ready. Gosuke Shigure, with a group of elites specially drawn from the 11th squad, came to the crossing gate, ready to go. Although it is said to destroy the Quincy Division, it is not worth dispatching all the Shinigami of the 11th Division. Some young Shinigami have insufficient combat experience. At this time, letting them fight the dangerous Quincy Division is basically courting death. Therefore, this task was undertaken by the chief executive of the 11th team and some elite experts. The remaining ordinary soldiers stayed in the Soul Society. It's worth mentioning because the Quincy incident happened so suddenly. Zaraki also temporarily stopped his studies with Uno Hinaretsu and joined the battle for the first time as a member of the 11th squad. Set off. Looking back, I glanced at the Shinigami of Team 11. Gosuke Shigure said something. In response to Shinigami, they stepped into the world transmitting Gate 1 after another. Between the Soul Society and the real world Hueco Mundo, there is a broken world. Even if you go to the real world through the world transmitting gate, you have to go through the broken world. The situation in the broken world is extremely complicated. If you are not careful, you may lose your way. Fortunately, the Soul Society has the Hell Butterfly, an ancient creature specially bred for its use. Under the guidance of the Hell Butterfly, Gosuke Shigure and his party arrived in the present world in an orderly manner. In this world, we are currently in the Edo period. This is also the last period of the samurai feudal era in the history of the island nation. In this era, the biggest feature is that the status of samurai has improved significantly. The power of the island country in the Heian period was controlled by the imperial court, so the nobles were the class that dominated society. In the eyes of the nobles at that time, samurai were low-status old men, so the nobles looked down on samurai. However, the power of samurai in the late Heian period became stronger and the dominance of the court weakened, so the court would have pressure when facing high-ranking samurai. Since the real status of samurai is not high, high-ranking samurai will use the general position certified by the court to enhance their authority. In the Edo period, the Tokugawa shogunate was powerful enough to formulate the court system, and the dignitaries of the court all depended on the shogunate's face. The samurai essentially became the dominant class in the society of this era. The privilege of the samurai in the Edo period was to wear a sword, have a surname, and directly draw a sword to kill civilians with bad attitudes and disrespect for the samurai. During the Edo period, commoners would avoid samurai when walking on the road, because if you accidentally bump into a samurai, it is embarrassing for the samurai, and it is tantamount to disrespecting the society. The samurai has the right to kill the other party directly. When Gosuke Shigure came to the world in response to Shinigami, he first saw a lot of arrogant and domineering samurai wearing swords in the streets. Wherever they passed, civilians avoided. Shinigami, who has an 11th team, expressed emotion immediately. It's somewhat similar to Soul Society. Although they all carry knives, they are not Shinigami after all. Gosuke Shigure replied to this person. The rest of the Shinigami nodded. Compared to this group of people with knives, our biggest enemy, right now, is those who use bows and arrows. Quincy, like Shinigami, takes eradicating the void as its own responsibility. It seems that the responsibility is the same, but in fact it is a profession on two different lines, and it is destined not to reach the same goal by different routes. Shinigami Zanshu is to purify Su into the original soul. Even if Su's soul is broken, those soul fragments can be reorganized into a new soul and then reincarnated. But the Quincy is different. The Quincy is a complete annihilation, turning Suki into the first spirit son. This is killing virtuality from the root. Although Su is very evil, it is also transformed by the soul after all. If things go on like this, the number of souls in this world will become less and less, and then become unbalanced and collapse. Regarding this point, before deciding to declare war on the Quincy and destroy the existing Quincy, the Seriidii had already explained it to all Shinigami of Godii 13. It can also be regarded as letting all the Shinigami understand the evil of the Quincy and understand why they fight. In addition, the information about the Quincy division was also learned by many Shinigami of the 11th division. The weapons of the Quincy masters are bows and arrows, and their move is called Holy Miserable Arrow, which is an ability to gather spirit seeds and launch them out as bows and arrows. This is also one of the unique abilities of Quincy, that is, manipulating spirit particles. Su's ability is to devour spirits, and through devouring, he can continuously strengthen his body. Shinigami continuously strengthens its own Reiatsu by absorbing the spirit particles in the air, and then uses the Reiatsu in the body. The Quincy is not the case. He does not have too powerful Reiatsu himself, but he can manipulate and borrow the spiritual power from the outside world. The difference between him and Shinigami is that one is external and the other is internal. Is it Captain Gosuke and his colleagues from the 11th Squad? Just beside Gosuke Shigure and many elite Shinigami of Team 11, a young voice sounded from the side. An ordinary-looking Shinigami wearing a black Shiba suit came here, looked at Gosuke Shigure and the others, and said with some trepidation, "I'm the 16th seed of the 13th Division, Kosuke Aoyama, and I am also stationed in Edo Shinigami of the city." "Hello!" Gosuke Shigure also greeted him after listening to the other party's self-introduction. Kosuke Aoyama said again, "Captain Jushiro has already told me about the specific matters through Hell Butterfly, and I have already prepared accommodation for my colleagues. It's time to work." Although he is preparing to eradicate the Quincy, Gosuke Shigure does not intend to go to war at the beginning. Of course, he has to settle down in the present world first. Soon, under the leadership of Kosuke Aoyama, Gosuke Shigure and others went to a residential area in Edo Castle. With the help of the unique means of the Soul Society, the humans in this area have temporarily fallen asleep and then they were concentrated and settled in other places first. After that, it will become a temporary base for Gosuke Shigure and others. Chapter 52. The Quincy Master Who Bows for Dummy. Nearly 800 years ago, under the leadership of its leader, the Quincy invaded the Soul Society and was finally defeated by the captain and all his colleagues from first-generation Godei 13. After that battle, the Quincy's were severely injured, and for hundreds of years since then, Godei 13 has continued to eliminate the remaining Quincy's in the Soul Society. The group of Quincy's has completely disappeared from the Soul Society. Among them, some descendants of the Quincy still survive. Because the power of Quincy is extremely weak in this world, Siriidiite didn't take them seriously as one thing. However, no one thought that after hundreds of years of reproduction, the Quincy's in this world would finally multiply and grow stronger. After entering this era called Edo in this world, the Tokugawa family is in control. The imperial court and the emperor all depend on the Tokugawa family's winking. The imperial court and the emperor have long been dissatisfied with the Tokugawa family, but there is nothing they can do. However, warriors are just ordinary people after all. Since Tokugawa Ieyasu became the 10th shogun, strange things have happened frequently in Edo Castle. Now, it is no longer the Heian era, and Inyang Liao has long since declined. These frequent strange incidents are helpless. At this moment, a group of beings who call themselves Quincy appeared. They showed great strength to Tokugawa Ieyasu, and they quickly rose to high positions. According to the investigation, the strange events in Edo Castle can be basically determined to be a play directed and performed by the Quincy masters themselves. They used special bait to lure the Hueco Mundo's ghosts, and then killed them and sent them to the audience. The shogun showed his strength, Edo Castle, among the temporary strongholds of Gosuke Shigure and others. After Gosuke Shigure stayed in this world for a while, he received information from the Soul Society. This information was delivered by the 8th Division, but it wasn't investigated by the 8th Division alone. During this process, the 12th Division, the 13th Division, and even the 10th Division all contributed. It can only be said that this group of Quincy masters in the present world is not the group of Quincy masters hidden in the Invisible Empire after all. They don't know that the present world has been under the surveillance of the Soul Society. Nothing can be hidden from the eyes of the Soul Society. After reading the information and thinking of the Invisible Empire, Gosuke Shigure frowned slightly again. According to the original book, Juhabak did not regain his heartbeat until 900 years after the battle, and 90 years later he regained consciousness. That is to say, at this moment, Juhabak has not yet woken up. If it is possible, before Juhabak wakes up, he can solve the trouble of the Invisible Empire first. Let them hide in the shadow of the Soul Society all the time, and everything I do is observed by the group of Quincy masters, which is not a problem. This feeling is still quite awkward. However, the most important thing right now is to get rid of these Quincy's in this world. From this point of view, it seems that this group of Quincy's is nothing to worry about. It's just a group of craftsmen who have to flatter the rich and powerful in order to make a living. In order to be able to be reused, he did not hesitate to show his abilities to the powerful. The Quincy Master, you've already fallen. Gosuke Shigure thought so. Edo Castle, since Tokugawa Ieyasu, who ended the Sengoku era, took office here as the Admiral Army and established the shogunate. It has become the capital of this country and continues to this day. Even today, although the emperor still lives in Kyoto, the real capital is indeed here. In this era, all existence in this country depends on the face of the shogunate. Among them was the emperor. Therefore, from this point of view, it was a very clear decision for the Quincy to choose to attach itself to the shogunate Admiral Army instead of the emperor. Because of the hollow deliberately attracted by Quincy, there was a great commotion in Edo Castle. In particular, ordinary people can't see the spiritual body, can't see the existence of the void, only to find that everything around was destroyed by invisible forces, which became even more terrifying. Even if Tokugawa Ieyasu is in the Admiral Army of the shogunate, in the final analysis, he is also an ordinary person, and he will also have fear. In such a situation, the appearance of the Quincy Master seemed to grab him a life-saving straw. Then, after Quincy solved these frequent strange things, they became the guests of Tokugawa Ieyasu and received the best hospitality. In a spacious house, a middle-aged man with long hair and wearing a kimono drank fine wine and praised a man next to him who looked like a stinger. Sugiura, your idea is really good. This wine is much better than the poor quality wine we bought ourselves. From now on, we are also masters. Sugiura smiled and said, where I just think that group of warriors, just a group of ordinary people, can be arrogant and domineering, but since we have mastered a powerful force, why should we hide it? We should use this power, living the life of a master. That's right, that's it. The middle-aged man who spoke earlier said so. In the house, besides these two people, there were many Quincy's. These Quincy masters are all dressed in the costumes of this era. He has long hair, a ponytail, and wears a kimono. When the two were talking, some people also raised objections. But won't the matter of us attracting so many ghosts and killing them attract those guys' attention? Hearing the word "those guys," Sugiura and the middle-aged man's eyes all became condensed. No way. We've been here for so many years, and they haven't done anything to us. They shouldn't come here for such a trivial matter. Someone comforted himself. Some people said harshly, it's just Shinigami. Do we really think we are afraid of them? This Quincy is also a bad-tempered person. He was a little bit contemptuous of his companions who only dared to say "those guys," and directly revealed the true identities of those guys. Just after his words were finished, suddenly, the Eing Quincy sensed something at the same time, and all looked sideways. All I saw was a group of figures in black death suits who came here quietly at some point. Because of the thinness of spirit seeds in this world, Shinigami can stand in the sky. The Shinigami, headed by Gosuke Shigure, stood in mid-air, looking down at the Quincy from a high position. Gosuke Shigure's eyes fell on the face of the violent Quincy. You said, aren't you afraid of us? Chapter 53. The Butcher's Knife Swing at the Quincy. No one thought that as soon as they mentioned Shinigami, Shinigami really appeared in front of them. All the Quincy masters here were stunned. In the end, the violent Quincy said coldly, Shinigami, why should I be afraid of you? Although we were the ones who lost that battle back then, after all, so many years have passed. If we fight again, we may not know who will win. For many Shinigami, especially young Shinigami, if they don't study hard, they don't read the history textbooks of Spiritual Arts Academy, and they don't even know about the battle that year. Not so with the Quincy. As losers, they have always remembered the events of that battle deeply. It was an extremely humiliating battle for their group. It was that battle that they lost. For hundreds of years, they have lived a precarious life. Although they possess extremely powerful power, they need to avoid Shinigami at all times to prevent being discovered by Shinigami. They've had enough of these days. With great power, many clansmen died because of poverty. It is also for this reason that after Sugiura proposed to use his strength to exchange money and wealth from the admiral army of the shogunate, they agreed one after another and then came to Edo Castle. According to Sugiura's suggestion, they have indeed gained wealth and power now. But I didn't expect it, and I haven't waited for them to enjoy it for a while. Here comes the goddamn Shinigami. Really? Since you have said so, I will give you a chance. A grim smile formed on the corners of Gosuke Shigure's mouth. In the next moment, with a movement of his body, he slashed out with a single blow. The Quincy who spoke the words couldn't react in time, and was directly slashed by Gosuke Shigure, and then his life was cut off, and he died. Yongshan, seeing his companion fall to the ground, blood gushing out, the rest of the Quincy were immediately furious and exclaimed. Then they also realized that this group of sudden Shinigami-comers were not kind. Kill them. Although the events of the past hundreds of years have left a fearful and powerful impression on the minds of the Quincy masters, they are not just waiting to die. Especially the group of Quincy masters who came to Edo Castle are all ambitious generation. The Quincy masters opened their spiritual bows one after another. Under the control of the Quincy masters, the spiritual arrows condensed and shot towards Gosuke Shigure and the other Shinigami. Whoosh! Arrows pierced through the air. Gosuke Shigure and the 11th Team Shinigami behind him are not vegetarian either. The 11th Squad is a special fighting squad. The quality of its members is far above that of the rest of the squad, so it can be said that there are many strong ones. Long before the Lingzi arrows flew, Everyone cast Shuinpa one after another to avoid it. Then, he waved Zampicut, approaching Quincy's body with Shuinpa, trying to kill Quincy. But Shinigami has the footwork of Shuinpa, and Quincy has countermeasures. Some powerful Quincy immediately used the flying scythe kick. This is the high-speed movement footwork exclusive to the Quincy Master. By adjusting the flow of spiritual particles under the feet, the purpose of high-speed movement is achieved. If you use it skillfully, it is even faster than Shuinpa. The purpose of flying in Soul Society, Hueco Mundo. From this point of view, Flying Sickle is indeed more advanced than Shuinpa. But not all Quincy Masters have practiced the Flying Sickle kick to a very proficient level. Some people use the Flying Sickle kick to avoid Shinigami's slash, and some Quincy Masters can't dodge it, and they're directly chopped by Shinigami's Zampicut. However, it has to be said that after hundreds of years of reproduction, there are still many strong people emerging from the Quincy group. Some even hurt the Shinigami. For a moment, the huge room was directly damaged due to the battle. The roar echoed throughout the shogunate of Edo Castle. The samurai guarding the shogunate came one after another, but he found that he couldn't get close at all. A terrifying sense of oppression struck, causing those who approached without exception to faint to the ground one after another. This is the Ryatsu they unleashed in the middle of the battle when they couldn't carry the Shinigami and Quincy. Gosuke Shigure ignored the team's fight. From the very beginning, his eyes fell on several figures who were suspected to be the leaders of this group of Quincy divisions. As a captain-level Shinigami, when he came to the present world, he was put on a limited mark, which made his Ryatsu suppressed by 80%. However, even so, for him, the impact is not very big. His figure flickered, and he didn't even release Zampicut, but simply relied on the sealed state. Taking advantage of the gap between the Quincy's bow and arrow, he directly took away the opponent's life with a single blow. Then, another slash cut off another Quincy's arm holding a bow and arrow. In the long years, to be precise, in the experience of the previous life, Gosuke Shigure has experienced too many battles. Among them, he has killed Sue, Shinigami, and naturally Quincy. The Quincy at that time was not like the Quincy now, but a group of remnants struggling to survive. The Quincy at that time was strong enough to compete with the Shinigami. It's a pity that their strength was wiped out in the battle nearly 800 years ago, and they have completely declined since then. Under normal circumstances, ordinary people cannot open their bows and arrows if their arms are cut off, and they have already lost their combat power. But the Quincy Masters are different. Over the long years, they have developed many techniques for using spirit particles. Pretending to be a puppet. A painful voice came from the mouth of the Quincy, whose arm was cut off by Gosuke Shigure, who seemed to be Sugiura. The next moment, the spirit particles gathered and turned into silk threads, which actually forcibly sewed up his severed arm. Then, with the help of this method, he manipulated his body as a puppet and opened the bow and arrow again. Call out! The arrow of light flew out, attacking and killing Gosuke Shigure. Gosuke Shigure dodged and calmly avoided the arrow. It's a good method, but unfortunately, it's just an outdated method. He called it like this, pretending to be a puppet. To a certain extent, it is really powerful. Turning his body into a puppet can make him fight to the last tone. But in the final analysis, it is just a means of last resort, a technique to kill the enemy together. More importantly dated, the Quincy division of the Invisible Empire has long developed a new ultimate form. Completing the Eucharist is the future of the Quincy Master. Gosuke Shigure would have to be more careful if the Quincy opened a complete Eucharist in front of him. But if he didn't, then he could only die. Chapter 54. Ishida. It didn't take long for the Quincy, who had cast the Misunderstanding Sky Puppet, to be hacked to death by Gosuke Shigure. In the final analysis, the Reckless Sky Puppet just uses the joints of its body as a puppet to manipulate, so that even if the body is injured or old and weak, it can use this method to force itself into the peak period. But this approach still has its drawbacks. In the final analysis, the human body is not a real puppet after all. When the heart or head is fatally injured, the person who loses control of the puppet will still stop functioning. Gosuke Shigure doesn't even have to do a limited release against these quakes. Not long after, all the Quincy divisions in Edo Castle were killed by the Shinigami of the 11th Division. During this time, some Shinigami were also injured. Fortunately, he did not die. The code that Gosuke Shigure learned in the 4th team that day was of some use. With the help of Cade, he temporarily helped the players deal with their injuries. And some players were really seriously injured, so people sent him to the stronghold first. Afterwards, the Soul Society will come to support him and bring him back to the Soul Society for healing. It's really boring. These people are not resistant to cutting at all. Zaraki personally killed many Quincy during this battle, but he felt that such a battle was boring. There are too few Quincy. There are so many of them. There are not enough points at all. Don't worry, this is just a part of Quincy. There are still many Quincy that we need to clear. After hundreds of years of reproduction, although there are not as many Quincy masters in the current world as Shinigami, there are definitely many. Naturally, it is impossible to only have so many at present. So how many Shinigami are there? Counting the entire Godai 13, there are only a few thousand, less than 10,000. The number of Quincy divisions is naturally not as many as that of Shinigami, but it is conservatively estimated that there are at least hundreds or even thousands of them. How many are there right now? Here, it is just a part of the Quincy group. So, don't look down on Shinigami either. The world is so big, and there are so many souls. There are only a few who can truly become Shinigami. After all, at this time, there are still very few people who really have special abilities. After this battle, the Quincy will be completely reduced to a rare animal. After returning to the stronghold, a little trimming, Gosuke Shigure, the group of executioners who came to hang the Quincy, soon went to another city. After Central 46 issued the order to strangle the Quincy, in this world, no matter how well the Quincy's were hidden, they were still found by the Soul Society. Regardless of whether they are good people or bad people, who calls them Quincy, they have only one ending, and that is death. The Quincy's in one city after another were killed one after another. If the Quincy's were caught off guard at the beginning, then after many Quincy families died one after another, the Quincy's finally realized the seriousness of the matter. They unite and prepare for a decisive battle against the Shinigami who exterminate them. Over the wilderness, Gosuke Shigure led a group of Shinigami. Looking at the Quincy in front of him, his eyes were indifferent. He hasn't spoken yet. Zaraki had already swung Zanpakuto and took the initiative to kill. This battle ended with the complete annihilation of this group of Quincyans. During this period, Shinigami died in the 11th team after all. This is also impossible. Even Gosuke Shigure tried to avoid casualties. But he is not a nanny after all. He can take care of his team members all the time. There are always some places he can't take care of. Regarding the death of the team members, neither Gosuke Shigure nor the rest of the team members expressed much sadness. After all, after becoming a Shinigami, especially the Shinigami of the 11th team, they are ready to die. It was also after this battle that in the present world, the group of Quincy's that had managed to grow stronger again died out again. Only a few small families of Quincyans survived. It didn't take long for Gosuke Shigure to meet a Quincy who was not afraid of death. To say that he is not afraid of death is better to say that he is actively waiting for death. Aren't you running away? Looking ahead at the middle-aged man sitting cross-legged on the ground, Gosuke Shigure asked curiously. There was a hint of sadness in the eyes of the middle-aged man. When there is no place for our Quincy master in this world, where else can we escape? After the Quincy was defeated in that battle, all the Quincy in the Soul Society have been wiped out, and now the Soul Society completely belongs to Shinigami. Afterwards, Shinigami continued to expand its minions, and the present world was basically under the control of Shinigami. Fortunately, there are not many Shinigami stationed in the present world, and the remaining Kunishers can still survive as long as they avoid the Shinigami. However, this time, after Shinigami aimed the butcher knife at Quincy again, no matter whether Quincy resisted or not, it could not change the ending of their complete demise. As for, apart from Soul Society and the present world, there is also Hueco Mundo. Do you really think Shinigami will let the Quincy escape to Hueco Mundo? It is Shinigami who really decides the survival of the Quincy division. Why Quincy is a bunch of losers. That's true. After hearing this, Gosuke Shigure did not deny it. The middle-aged man looked behind him again. Behind him, the two children were in a coma. There was a look of kindness in his eyes, and his eyes fell on Gosuke Shigure again. You should be the captain of Godai 13, and also the leader this time, can I ask you one thing? The middle-aged man begged Gosuke Shigure. Gosuke Shigure combined the middle-aged man's previous gaze and guessed his purpose. You want me to let these children go? The middle-aged man nodded and said, yes. In any case, the child is innocent. If the Soul Society really thinks that we Quincy should not exist in this world, we can take the initiative to sever the inheritance of Quincy. It doesn't even matter if we adults all die, but I hope that children can live on. They shouldn't have to bear the grievances between those ancestors. Gosuke Shigure said indifferently, you should know that you are not qualified to negotiate terms with us. The middle-aged man sighed. Of course I know, I am not qualified to negotiate terms. But I'm serious. As a father, no matter what, you have to fight for some hope of survival for your children. Since resistance cannot be exchanged for a chance of survival, then he can only adopt some other methods. Of course, now it seems that his father seems to be very incompetent and can't do anything. Gosuke Shigure suddenly thought of something and asked the middle-aged man, what's your name? Kohei Ishida. Ishida. Gosuke Shigure didn't know what to think when he heard the surname. Chapter 55 Shinigami's Mercy Among the Soul Society. Captain Yamamoto received a letter from the present world. The person who wrote this letter is Gosuke Shigure. The captain of the 11th Squad, the man who bears the name of Kenpachi, is also the leader of the Soul Society's annihilation of the Quincy Division. In the letter, Gosuke Shigure did not show any sympathy for the Quincy. He just truthfully reported to the captain what he had done and experienced in this world. As for whether to let go of the remaining Quincy divisions, the decision is in the hands of the captain. The captain, after pondering for a long time, finally had an answer. Before that, you want to meet someone first, a man who suddenly came to Siriidii some time ago. It is because of him that Central 46 decided to annihilate all Quincy divisions in this world. On the bright side, the reason given by Central 46 is that Quincy's killing of Sue destroyed the balance between souls. But actually not so. There are not many Quincy in the present world, and since the bloody battle that year, the Soul Society has not wiped out Quincy for nearly 800 years. If it is only because of this reason, it is completely impossible wait until now to wipe out the Quincy. The real reason is that this mysterious person who came to Soul Society brought a message. Spirit King, abnormal movement. The Eye Monk saw a corner of the future. After that corner of the future, the Quincy will become the culprit in destroying the Soul Society and then completely subvert the entire world and break the balance. A monk, that is Ichibai Haisub, if Yamamoto Genrisai, is the most powerful Shinigami of the Soul Society. Then Ichibai Haisub is the most powerful Shinigami of this world. This world includes Hueco Mundo, Soul Society, this world, and even the most mysterious hell. Also, he is the oldest Shinigami. Ichibai Haisub has been guarding the Soul King ever since the Soul King was the wedge of the world, stabilizing the balance of the world. At first, he was the only one. Later, when the Zero Division was established, the number of people guarding the Soul King continued to increase. Godii 13 has also become a substitute for Team Zero. But having said that, until now, there has been no Shinigami who has been promoted from Godii 13 to Team Zero. In the early years, Team Zero was somewhat interested in Kenpachi, but this proposal was directly rejected by Kenpachi. Afterwards, Tsukiyashiki died, and the matter was left alone. Back to business. Because of the corner of the future that Ichibai Haisub saw, someone from Team Zero came to Siriidii and told the news to Yamamoto Genrisai, the captain of Godii 13. Afterwards, Central 46 also knew the order of the King of Soul. This is the task of destroying the Quincy. Since the existence of the Spirit King is a secret, something that should not be known to ordinary people, the public opinion has become that the Quincy destroys the balance and must be eliminated. Those who came to Soul Society from Team Zero thought that Yamamoto Genrisai would complete this task. But he didn't expect that Captain Yamamoto would come to him at this time and take the initiative to mention one thing. Yamamoto, you are too merciful. Although the Quincy has temporarily declined, you should know their abilities. If you leave them alone, sooner or later, a Uabak will be born again. At that time, the whole world will be destroyed because of it. Monkian issued the order precisely because he saw this and decided to completely destroy the Quincy. Captain Yamamoto listened to the other party's words. His expression did not change in any way. He said coldly, "If I can defeat the first Uabak, I can defeat the second Uabak. Is it necessary to deny the present just because of some unknown future events? If the future is really doomed, the things we are doing now will basically be in vain. Conversely, if the future Quincy has not destroyed the Soul Society, what we are doing now is no different from a real butcher. Kylan Temple, have even you become so cold-blooded?" Listening to Captain Yamamoto's words, the man opposite him fell silent. Immediately afterwards, Captain Yamamoto handed Gosuke Shigure's letter, or work report, to Kylan Temple in front of him. The other party didn't speak, but just took the letter and read it. After a long time, the man named Kylan Temple made a decision. In this world, the vast majority of Quincy Masters have already died. This matter can be brought to a close. The remaining Quincy Masters must be allowed to live under the surveillance of the Soul Society. Otherwise, they will have to die. After saying this, Kylan Temple looked at Captain Yamamoto and said, "Yamamoto, this is my last mercy. As for the monk, I will go and talk to him personally." Kylan Temple, thank you. Captain Yamamoto thanked the other party sincerely. Kylan Temple waved his hand, indicating that Captain Yamamoto didn't need to thank himself. At the same time, there was some emotion in his heart. Once upon a time, the decisive Yamamoto Jinrosai became so benevolent. This is an extremely rare thing. You must know that in the past, with the help of Raijin Jaka, he would slash through any enemy without asking indiscriminately. The former Uabak was defeated by such a man. In this world, Gosuke Shigure soon received a letter from the Soul Society. He looked at Ishida Kohei in front of him and said, "You are very lucky." Kohei Ishida looked at Gosuke Shigure puzzled. Perhaps because most of the Quincy's were wiped out this time, the Soul Society decided that you remaining Quincy's are no longer a threat and decided to let you go. Really? Hearing this, Ishida Kohei was taken aback for a moment and then became ecstatic. It is true that this time Shinigami raised the butcher knife on the Quincy and killed many of the Quincy. But if the killing can be stopped, it will undoubtedly be a good thing for those of them who are still alive. It doesn't matter that he died. Most importantly, his child survived. Of course, there is a price for this kindness. Gosuke Shigure changed his words again and said one after another. Ishida Kohei frowned. Gosuke Shigure said the price. You remaining Kunakes must live under the surveillance of the Soul Society. Only in this way can we be sure that there is no threat to you. If you are unwilling, then the only option is death. I am willing. We are willing. Hearing this, Ishida Kohei said quickly, for fear that Gosuke Shigure would go back on his word. Chapter 56. Shadow and Deputy Captain. So far, the matter of the Quincy Master has been drawn to a close. After hundreds of years of recuperation, the group of Quincy divisions that had just re-emerged and grown stronger was directly confiscated by the Soul Society for some reason, and most of the Quincy divisions died during this suppression process. In order to be able to survive, the remaining Quintians had to move to live in one place in accordance with the requirements of the Soul Society, and then passively accept the surveillance of the Soul Society once the Soul Society determines that they will endanger the world and disrupt the balance. They will kill the only survivors without hesitation. However, are the Quincy Masters really willing to accept the fate of being slaughtered and then raised in captivity? Unknown land. A man wearing a white cloak that covered most of his body looked at the Quincy in front of him and asked softly, "Are you really willing to accept such a lingering fate as 083? Do you want revenge on the Shinigami?" "Yes, of course I want it." Hearing this, deep hatred appeared in Quincy's eyes. As for the Shinigami, who wantonly manipulated and wiped out teachers and students, he wished he could kill all the Shinigami right now. The mysterious man said coldly, "If you want revenge, then join us. We are the Invisible Empire." The matter of the Quincy division has come to an end, although Captain Yamamoto held the captain's meeting. But in fact, from the fact that he only entrusted this mission to a few of them, rather than betting on the glory of Godii 13 as a whole, it can be confirmed that he did not regard these Quincy Masters in this world as a whole in his heart. Not surprising either. The strong ones in the Quincy division have basically all been killed after the war nearly 800 years ago, although there are still some Quincy masters left in this world. But the Quincy master who stayed in this world back then was not asleep in itself. Since all the strong were buried in the Soul Society, many inheritances of the Quincy masters were also lost. Under such circumstances, even if the number of Quincy masters in the present world has grown to a certain extent after nearly 800 years of reproduction, it will still be difficult to be as strong as they were back then. The number, at best, is as many as 1 or 2 Shinigami among Godei 13. So little people, relying on the 11th team is enough to wipe them out completely. As for the other teams, although they also participated in this mission, most of them played an auxiliary role. Gosuke Shigure did not stay long in this world. If the modern world has already entered the modern society, I don't mind playing the modern world for a while. But the modern era at this moment is similar to Soul Society in terms of the style of the times. Under such circumstances, he naturally has no intention of staying in this world for a long time. After completing the task and receiving the order from the Soul Society, he returned to the King of the Soul Society with a team of players. Back to Soul Society, feel the rich spirit in the air. Gosuke Shigure couldn't help feeling a little bit emotional. It's not because there are more spiritual seeds in the air than in this world, and the air is more fragrant than in this world, but because I can't fly anymore. Only in the living world does the profession of Shinigami seem like a true god, because it can stand on the sky wantonly. Whereas in Soul Society, Shinigami is more like broken to earth. People who walk or anything rely on their feet to run, and they can't fly at all. Although there are also a few Shinigami who can fly, but that is only with the help of their own special Zampicut. After sighing, the 11th team held another grand reception. Anyway, completing the task this time can be regarded as Guy's return. Compared to many expeditions to Hueco Mundo, the Shinigami who have not returned so far, all of them are back, which is naturally a matter of good fortune. For everyone's safe return, drink victory. Gosuke Shigure held a bowl of wine and said loudly to the many members of the 11th squad who were going to participate in the battle. Many team members looked at the drinks in front of them and also smiled and drank with the captain. Although Zaraki felt that this battle was not enjoyable enough. But I'm very happy about holding a reception after the war. After all, how can a real man not like to drink? The smell of alcohol was high, and the hearty voices of the Japanese team members echoed, while Gosuke Shigure and the team are enjoying a drink. A complaining voice sounded in his ear. Gosuke, you are not kind. You held a reception, and you didn't invite me. Don't you know that I also like to drink? Gosuke Shigure turned his head and saw Kayaraku Shuinsue's helpless face. Gosuke Shigure smiled. It can't be helped. Who is the leader of the Beijing band? Not our 11th team? Of course, if the Beijing band leader is willing to step down as the captain of the 8th team and come to our 11th team as the vice captain, I promise if there is a reception in the future, I will be the first to notify you. Hearing this, Kayaraku Shunsui rubbed his chin and thought, that's a good idea. He looked serious about it. Then he shook his head again and said, let's forget it. After all, I have been in the 8th team for so many years, and I have feelings for the 8th team. It is really impossible for me to abandon the 8th team and go to the 11th team. Arrive. I think you are reluctant to part with those girls from the 8th division. Gosuke Shigure rants directly at Kayaraku Shunsui. The 8th division is an intelligence team, and the number of female members is the same as that of the 4th division, not a minority. Kayaraku Shunsui frankly admitted. Although the 11th team also has many female members, but to be honest, they're all too hot. I still like my girls from the 8th team. Gosuke Shigure looked at Kayaraku Shunsui as if he really did. Kayaraku Shunsui didn't show any signs of embarrassment either. Over the years, he has already cultivated a face that is not bad. He came to Gosuke Shigure on his own, poured himself a bowl of wine, took a sip, and took the initiative to talk about another thing. Since you were promoted to be the captain of the 11th team, the position of vice captain of the team, has been vacant all the time. And now that such a long time has passed, have you figured out who to be the vice captain? Gosuke Shigure said softly. At the beginning, I asked the officers, but they all refused, and they didn't have the idea of being the vice captain, because in their opinion as the vice captain, You need to handle team affairs, which is not a good job for them who like to fight. It really fits the style of your 11th team. Kairaku Shunsui sighed. In other teams, when the chief officer learned that there was an opportunity to become the vice captain, most of them were trying to win the opportunity. But the 11th team rejected the matter one after another on the grounds that they did not want to deal with team affairs. Gosuke Shigure said again. However, I still think about the candidate. Chapter 57 Team 0 Visitors. First order required. Oh, who is it? Kairaku Shunsui asked curiously. Gosuke Shigure didn't give a damn and asked Kairaku Shunsui directly. What do you think of Zaraki? Zaraki. Kairaku Shunsui is no stranger to Zaraki. After all, a Shinigami from the 11th team often goes to the 4th team and learns from Unohana Retsu. This in itself is an incredible thing. There must be something about Zaraki that attracted Unohana Retsu, and the group made Unohana Retsu choose to teach Gingshio. While Unohana Retsu hid Zaraki well. But I can't stand it Kairaku Shunsui has a pair of eyes that are good at discovering. He still found this out. Moreover, as a Shinigami who has been the captain for many years, he knows the true identity of Unohana Retsu better than ordinary people and knows her strength. Zaraki's strength seems to be good, but is he really qualified for the position of vice captain? When Kairaku Shunsui said this, he couldn't help but glance at the larger one not far away. At this moment, Zaraki is drinking wine with the players, showing a bold and unrestrained meaning. His appearance was mixed among the many Shinigami of the 11th team, but there was no sense of disobedience. Looks like a thug. Such a person's fighting ability is naturally beyond doubt. After all, he looks extremely fierce. However, is he really suitable to be the vice captain? Gosuke Shigure picked up the bowl and took a sip of wine. In the 11th team, there is no such thing as a wine glass. The players are used to drinking from a large bowl. He asked Kairaku Shunsui, in your opinion, what is the standard for being a vice captain? Kairaku Shunsui thought. The deputy captain is the captain's adjutant and needs to help the captain handle team affairs. Because the 11th team is a combat team, compared with other teams, there are fewer team affairs in the file, but there are still some. As the vice captain, you need to help the captain handle these things, such as the battle tasks are distributed to team members reasonably. Gosuke Shigure glanced at Kairaku Shunsui. The leader of the Beijing band knows our 11th team very well. So, do you really not consider joining our 11th team? Kairaku Shunsui shook his head with a smile. Gosuke, you have already found a candidate for the vice captain. I still don't want to join in the fun. Still, I'm curious. Why did you choose Zaraki? Zaraki has not been in the 11th team for a long time, so this is not a problem. After all, the 11th team is a very special team. If your strength is strong enough, you can even become the captain in one step. Gosuke Shigure explained to Kairaku Shunsui. As you said before, the vice captain of the 11th team needs to help the captain with team affairs. Because the 11th team is a combat team, the captain often needs to take the lead, so the vice captain is more similar. You and Guan, when the captain goes out to fight, he needs to take care of many things in the team. That's what I did in the first place. After I took over as the captain, I planned to find someone of this type to serve as the vice captain at first, but all the officers in the team showed their resistance to the position of the vice captain. I also wanted to go to another team to poach someone talented. However, before that, I suddenly had a new idea. Why does the captain have to take on the combat mission? Let the deputy captain handle the files in the rear. I can definitely find someone strong enough to carry combat missions to serve as the vice captain, and I will handle the files in the rear. In the 11th team, civil servants are hard to find, but it's not hard to find strong men who can take on combat responsibilities. Although Zaraki has only joined the 11th team, he has great potential and is eager to fight. If I am not in the position of Kenpachi, his strength is actually enough to bear the name of Kenpachi. He will serve as the deputy captain, and he can completely take over all those combat missions. That way I can relax a lot. Kairaku Shunsui was stunned when he heard Gosuke Shigure finish speaking. After a long time, he couldn't help but praise Gosuke Shigure. Gosuke, you are really a genius. Since I can't find a civil servant who can handle team affairs, I will be that civil servant myself. Then, the combat mission originally belonged to the captain was directly handed over to the deputy captain. It was a little unbelievable, but I have to say, this is indeed a way Of course, there are hidden dangers in doing so. After all, not everyone can bear the title of Kenpachi. He can be regarded as a benchmark of the Soul Society, representing the sharpest knife of the Soul Society. Gosuke, have you ever thought that if you entrust all the combat tasks to the deputy captain and hide behind yourself, if things go on like this, it may cause some criticism? Gosuke Shigure naturally thought about this question, and his answer was, as long as the 11th team is still operating normally, what is a little criticism? I can get my Kenpachi name from them. Besides, the leader of the Beijing band has been criticized for so many years. Isn't there nothing wrong with it? Kairaka Shunsui froze for a moment, then shook his head helplessly. As the vice captain of the 8th Division, Kairaka Shunsui is notoriously out of tune. Often leave the team and run to drink flower wine. But such a person is one of the captains with the longest seniority in the existing 10 home guard teams, just because he is strong enough. Likewise, if Gosuke Shigure is really strong enough, even if they have been hiding behind and not taking action, as long as the 11th team is still operating, the captain and the people who can really decide everything will not say anything. Because the strong are privileged. Just keep Gosuke Shigure out of the way in times of real danger. Sometimes, one shot to turn the tide is far better than thousands of shots under normal circumstances. Division 12, Siriidii Research Institute. In the edge corner of the Research Institute, there is a secret room, which is the department that specializes in making dead fighter outfits. It is said that it is a department, but in fact there is only one person who actually makes dead clothes. When the 11th Division held a celebration banquet for the victory in the first battle to wipe out the Quincy Division in this world, a mysterious visitor also came here. When he came here, the woman who was making the deadly costume also stopped what she was doing. "It's you." After seeing the appearance of the Comer, Shatara Senjimaru's eyes showed a look of nostalgia. She recognized each other. Of course, it was limited to acquaintance. Before that, their intersection was not too much. "Senjimaru, after so many years, you still haven't thought about it," the visitor said to Shudara Senjimaru. Shudara Senjimaru didn't answer the other party's words, but continued to fiddle with the silk thread and weave the cloth. Seeing Shatara Senjimaru Shima, the visitor continued. "This time I came here, apart from one thing I need Godii 13 to do, there is one more thing, which is for you. Whether you think about it or not, I hope you can follow me to the Spirit King Palace. Squad 0 needs you. Just relying on the few of us right now is not enough to protect the Spirit King." Hearing the word Spirit King, Shatara Senjimaru's eyes finally changed. As a Shinigami that existed a long time ago, although Shatara Senjimaru did not go to Team 0, but to the Soul King Palace, she is naturally qualified to know the truth based on the fact that she has formulated various systems for the Soul Society. Know what the Spirit King is. The matter of the Quincy Master this time, is it related to the Spirit King? Shatara Senjimaru finally opened his mouth and asked the visitor. The visitor said softly, "Sorry, I can't tell you. After all, you haven't agreed to join the 0 team. Although you know a lot of truths, you should also know that there are some truths that Team 0 is entitled to know." Chapter 58 Senjuan, come out and chat. After hearing such words, Shatara Senjimaru became silent again. Looking at the indifferent Shatara Senjimaru, the visitor sighed and could only say, "I will stay in the Soul Society for a while. I hope you can think about it before I go back." With that said, the visitor left here. Shatara Senjimaru raised his head again, glanced at the direction where the other party left, his eyes flickered, and he didn't know what he was thinking. Night. Shudara Senjimaru returned to her room, which was located in the place where she usually worked. This is a small room. The room is extremely simple. Except for some weaving tools, there is nothing else. She found a box. After opening the box, there was a brand new shirt inside. This is a deadly bully outfit, but it is completely different from the deadly costumes worn by Shinigami in the current generation. In other words, this is the original dead bully outfit. The prototype of the Seba costume is this set of clothes. Back then, because of the other party's casual remarks, she worked hard to sew this shirt. In order to make this suit, she even absorbed a lot of his spiritual power to weave it into silk thread. It's a pity that in the end, none of them were able to give this set of clothes 607 to the other party. I heard the bad news. the news of the other party's death. For countless years since then, she has been able to detect that after the other party died, his spiritual power has not dissipated, nor has he entered hell, but has been wandering in the world. This is an extremely incredible thing. Although, after the death of the captain-level Shinigami, because of its high concentration of Ryatsu, it is difficult to decompose the body into spirit particles like ordinary souls or Shinigami, and their spirit particles will always wander in the soul society. However, that person had undergone a soul burial ceremony. However, even so, the other party did not seem to have fallen into hell, but has been hovering above this world. Ordinary people don't know this, but Shutara Senjumaru, because she had used the other party's spiritual power to sew clothes, so she could clearly perceive this, and was able to bind the spiritual seeds into silk threads, and then sew them into clothes. The sun's perception ability is also the best in the world. It is precisely because of this strangeness that Shutara Senjumaru not only gave birth to some hopeful meanings. She expects a miracle to happen, looking forward to the reunion of the spirit child of the other party after wandering in the world for many years, and come back to life again. It seems incredible, but in fact, if you trace the essence of the soul, it may not be impossible. In the final analysis, the soul is nothing but an aggregate of spirit particles. The spirit sun of the other party has not dispersed. If they reunite, wouldn't it be rebirth? With this thought in mind, Shutara Senjumaru has been waiting for the other party to be reborn. And then he handed over the unsent clothes to the other party. It's a pity that she waited until Godii 13 was established, and waited until the nobles built a towering wall to separate Siriidii and Rakongai, and waited until the captain of Godii 13 died one crop after another, and still did not wait for the other party to reappear. In the early years, she felt that the other party's spiritual power had completely disappeared. In other words, all her extravagant hopes have turned into a dream. Suddenly, Shutara Senjumaru suddenly thought of Gosuke Kenpachi, the new captain of the 11th team. When the other party came here that day, Shutara Senjumaru was distracted for a while because of the other party's spiritual power, just because the other party's spiritual power was very similar to that person back then. But you are not him after all. Shutara Senjumaru took out the clothes from a box. The box is specially made and has excellent airtightness, which can restrain the spiritual power in it so that it does not leak out. At this moment, when this suit is taken out, if it is not worn on the body immediately to absorb the wearer's spiritual power, it will not take long for the spiritual power inside it to disappear, and then it will become an ordinary dead bully outfit. In the past, because this suit contained the spiritual power of that person, Shutara Senjumaru was going to take it as a thought, so he would not open the box easily. But today, with the arrival of that person from the team, Shutara Senjumaru understood that Jeff had to make a choice. At the same time, the 11th team in the team house, Gosuke Shigure is resting. Because of the grand reception, even though he originally had a pretty good capacity for alcohol, he was still a bit smoky after repeated persuasion by many team members. Being drunk is an uncomfortable state. Also, because of being drunk, Gosuke Shigure couldn't help but think wildly. Many things from his previous life that he had let go of in the past couldn't help coming to his mind. At this moment, Gosuke Shigure suddenly had a very strange feeling. It seemed that there was something closely related to him exuding breath not far away. This surprised Gosuke Shigure. The 11th team is not far from the 12th team. It can be seen literally that these two teams are adjacent to each other. Gosuke Shigure's spiritual sense is not weak, and his perception ability is extremely strong. Because of his drunkenness, he was much bolder than his usual self. Or in other words, this was his nature in his previous life. If it weren't for such a character, he wouldn't have been overturned and died because of being too wavy in his previous life. Due to what happened in his previous life, he has become a lot more cautious in this life. But there is a premise for all this, that is, do not drink alcohol. As the saying goes, alcohol is strong and cowardly. After getting drunk, Gosuke Shigure's courage is also much bigger. With the help of spiritual perception, he immediately understood where the breath came from. The 12th division? Gosuke Shigure thought of the 12th squad and suddenly thought of a person. Shutara Senju Pills. When customizing Captain Haori that day, he saw Shutara Senjumaru, which was not surprising. Logically speaking, the opponent should have already entered the zero team. As a result, he stayed in the Suriidii all the time. Moreover, Gosuke Shigure could also hear from the other party's words that Shotaro Senjumaru's stay in the Soul Society actually had something to do with him. To be precise, it was with his previous life. Senjumaru, is this incident related to you? If he was awake, Gosuke Shigure obviously tried his best to avoid seeing Shudara. But right now, he is clearly not the normal him. So, he carried the Zampakit and headed towards the 12th Division with a strong drunkenness. Suriidii Institute. It was already late at night. But as a researcher, it is a common thing. There is still a lot of Shinigami going on here. Gosuke Shigure came here easily, and then went to the department that made the deadly costumes with ease. Senjumaru, come out and talk. Gosuke Shigure's voice is quite loud because of his drunkenness. Shudara Senjumaru sensed it as early as the first time someone came to his place. Then, she put down the deadly costume in her hand and walked out. Chapter 59. The legacy of autumn water. After walking out and seeing the appearance of the visitor clearly, Shudara Senjumaru seemed a little surprised. Captain Gosuke, I didn't know you came here late at night. What's your business? Shudara Senjumaru knew Gosuke Shigure. After all, after Gosuke Shigure was promoted to captain, he also came to him to customize the captain's Haori. However, Gosuke Shigure came here in the middle of the night, which made Shudara Senjumaru a little accident. Senjumaru, let's chat. The strong smell of alcohol emanated from Gosuke Shigure's body. He looked at Shutara Senjumaru, so said. Shutara Senjumaru frowned. For so many years, although she has been hiding in the Soul Society, there are not many people who really know her identity and her name. Only after some Shinigami are promoted to become captains. They will meet her once they come here. In addition, the deadly costumes she made have always been directly taken away by the 12th Division and distributed. In other words, only a small number of people in the 12th Division and the captains knew of her existence. And in front of these people, she has always maintained a mysterious posture and has never voluntarily revealed her name. So, how did Gosuke Shigure know his name? Shudara Senjumaru was a little curious. Of course, before that, she still hid her curiosity in her heart, but asked Gosuke Shigure in a cold voice, "What does Captain Gosuke want to talk to me about? If I'm not mistaken, you seem to be drinking a lot. Could it be that you want to talk nonsense at my place after drinking?" Hearing this, Gosuke Shigure complained, "Your mouth is really vicious." After complaining, he sorted out his words again and said to Shutara Senjumaru, "I came here because I suddenly remembered something. There is a man named Kushui who once left you sent a letter." The name Autumn Water fell into the ears of Shutara Senjumaru, and Shutara Senjumaru's body couldn't help but startled. Her jade face changed slightly, and her expression was suddenly moved. Then he stared at Gosuke Shigure differently. "Have you seen him? This is an extremely incredible thing." Gosuke Shigure is not very old, but to Shinigami, he is a real young man. "And what about that person?" "Fallen and died long before Godii 13 was founded. Among the Godii 13, there are only a handful of people who know the existence of that person. Only a few people such as Captain Yamamoto and Unohana still remember that person. Under normal circumstances, it is impossible for Gosuke Shigure to have an intersection with that person at all. However, thinking that after the person died, his spiritual power would not dissipate for a long time, and he had been wandering in this world. Perhaps some of the other party's power survived, and he might be able to linger on his last breath during this time." Shudara Senjumaru looked at Gosuke Shigure eagerly, thinking of knowing when Gosuke Shigure met that person, the letter that person left for him, and what he said. "Of course Gosuke Shigure dragged his tune. The strong smell of alcohol could not help exuding from his mouth, and then he gave another answer that disappointed Shutara Senjumaru. "Have not seen him. Although I don't know who that man named Kushui is, it seems to be in existence from a long time ago. He must be an extremely powerful man. He should be very handsome." Gosuke Shigure guessed the appearance of the man and said, "Although I have never met him, but by chance, I got the treasure left by the other party." Under the curious eyes of Shudara Senjumaru, Gosuke Shigure continued talking. He said that when he was a child, he never accidentally fell off a cliff because of an accident. Then, a cave was discovered under the cliff. In the cave, there is a treasure left by a strong man. It was a sword manual, And it was with the help of this sword manual and the cultivation methods on it that he had the strength he has today and was able to be a Kenpachi. It can be said that he was able to become a Kenpachi. According to the sword manual, the strong man named Kyu Shui has at least half of the credit. In addition, the strong man also left a letter. In that letter, a woman named Senjumaru was mentioned. At first, as a young man, he wondered which woman's name was Senjumaru. The name was too strange. In addition, because the strong man existed a long time ago, the person he mentioned in the letter was probably dead. TTE didn't take it seriously either. Until I became Kenpachi, after I came here, I saw the current Shudara Senjumaru. Curious about the skeleton-like arms behind Shudara Senjumaru. After receiving the Captain Hayori, he secretly investigated about Shudara Senjumaru. Eventually, I found out her name. At first, he only felt that the name was a little familiar, but he didn't remember it at the first time. After all, too many years had passed. After getting drunk tonight, my head seemed extraordinarily sober. I finally remembered who Shudara Senjumaru was. So, he came here. It can only be said that although Gosuke Shigure became much more courageous after being drunk, he was still not completely confused and irrational after all. In a short period of time, he combined himself and his previous life and came up with a perfect set of rhetoric. Similarly, after this set of rhetoric was spoken out by him, in the future, he can also use the means and fighting skills of his previous life without any scruples. Even if some old guys who have lived for a long time can see it, he can say that this is an adventure he got by jumping off a cliff when he was a boy. This statement seems outrageous, but if you know his style and his previous life, you will find that it is not outrageous. Sure enough, after listening to Gosuke Shigure's narration, Shudara Senjumaru couldn't help showing some excitement. She murmured, "It's really your style." When she got along with that person back then, she was a little disrespectful because of that person's temper. The other party's ideas were like a powerful and unconstrained style, which seemed incompatible with the rigid world at that time. Especially in that era, the conflict between the common people and the nobles was far more intense than it is now, and the rules among the nobles were even more complicated. In Ultimate, that person was a top-level noble, but he didn't look like a noble at all, and he even took the initiative to fight with the common people. Hit together, it cannot be said that it is not an anomaly. Of course, this is not the reason why that person attracted Shudara Senjumaru. Chapter 60: Untie the Knot. Before leaving, after many years, Shudara Senjumaru never thought that he would hear news about that person again from Gosuke Shigure, even if it is already certain that that person has completely disappeared from the world. But being able to hear the news about that person is still a happy thing for her after all. As for things like jumping off a cliff and getting an adventure, in Gosuke Shigure's words, seems outrageous. But combined with that person's style, it's not too far off the mark. When that person was bored back then, he would casually talk about jumping off a cliff to get adventures and other stories, and said with a smile that if one day he became a strong man, he would also leave some treasures around for the latecomers to discover. If it is picked up by some commoner youths, they may become strong in an instant, perhaps even better than those nobles who were born with everything. After saying these words, the 883 man at that time inevitably talked about the conflict between the nobles and the common people. Obviously, he is a member of the great nobles, but he is extremely contemptuous of the nobles. It is said that it is just a group of speculators who have taken the lead. Except for the original ancestors, the so-called nobles are actually no more noble than commoners. Fortunately, these words were said in private, not in front of those nobles. Otherwise, I don't know what troubles will be caused. Right now, after Gosuke Shigure said these words, Shudara Senjumaru couldn't help but think of this again. Thoughts wandered for a long time. Shudara Senjumaru asked Gosuke Shigure again, what did he say in the letter? Compared with the adventures that Gosuke Shigure had, what she was more curious about was the letter left by that man. In particular, according to what Gosuke Shigure said, the other party mentioned himself in the letter. I don't know the past of this senior named Kyu Shui, and I don't know what era he is from. He said in the letter that he is going to do a big thing, because he is not sure that it will be successful or not, so I specially left that letter. If things succeed, that's all. If it fails, I hope that the person who finds the letter later can help him pass it on to Senjumaru. Don't wait for him any longer. Even if you are alone, you can live a good life. You'd better smile more. Smiley smile. Well, the last sentence is Gosuke Shigure thinking of the Ultraman Bismarck that he watched when he was traveling in his previous life and added it temporarily. So, is this what you want to say to me? Senjimura Shitaro couldn't help thinking. In her heart, Riji has a regret. That's because I didn't say goodbye to that person well back then. After that, because she realized that the man's spiritual power had not dissipated, she chose to wait in the world. However, after waiting for many years, she still did not wait for the man's return. I thought it was just meaningless waiting, but now it seems that this is not the case. After all, I waited for a belated farewell. Smile, how can I laugh back? Shutara Senjimura thought in his heart, then looked at Gosuke Shigure in front of him and said, "No matter what, I have to thank you. Thank you for telling me about this." Gosuke Shigure said, "It's nothing, I just remembered it suddenly." Shutara Senjimura nodded. Then he left here very rudely and returned to his room. Gosuke Shigure, "Do you know that the way you leave without saying anything makes me very embarrassed?" Of course, Gosuke Shigure was just thinking about it in his heart. He has known Senjimura for many years, and he really knows Senjimuru's character very well. While drunk, I came here and opened up some Senja pills. Gosuke Shigure also felt that he had settled his worries. Then he returned to the distance of the 11th team. He fell asleep directly. This time he slept soundly. At the same time, but Shudara Senjimura couldn't sleep all night. Although Gosuke Shigure didn't say much, but combined with what Gosuke Shigure said earlier, she had believed it, and that was indeed what the man left her. This made her extremely concerned. The words that the man left behind were so relaxed. It made her smile, but when she thought of the fact that the man had died, how could she still laugh? However, having said that, Shutara Senjimura forced some smiles on his face. She hadn't smiled for so many years that she gradually forgot what it was like to laugh. It wasn't until today that she regained her smile. The next day, early morning time, Shutara Senjimura, who has not slept all night, has already made a decision. It's time to say goodbye to the past. Among the Siriidii live many nobles, large and small. Although there are many civilians among them, if we trace back upwards, the ancestors of these commoners were either nobles, but later became commoners because of their decline, or they were Shinigami. They are the descendants of Shinigami, because they did not have the qualifications to become Shinigami, only then lived in it as a commoner. Of course, because the Siriidii range is limited. Not all civilians can live in it all the time. During the long years, there are many people who were expelled from Siriidii and forced to live in Rakangai. As a place where nobility lived, Siriidii also has hills, rivers, and forests. In a forest, a teenager is holding a wounded rabbit and studying it hard. The teenager seems to be full of curiosity about many things. Because he has not yet entered the Spiritual Arts Academy, he does not know that there is another kind of kid called Cade in this world, which is a therapeutic kid. He just felt that since there are Beika used to restrict people and had used to attack in this world, it's a pity that there is no kid for healing. Ever since he used his shallow knowledge to try to study this kind of treatment, the subject of the boy's treatment was a rabbit. In his view, everything in the Soul Society is made of spirit particles. If 0.7 is injured, it should also be that the spirit sun has been damaged. So is there any way to solve this problem? For example, by replenishing spirit seeds and spiritual power to the injured person, so that his injury can be healed quickly? Teenagers have unique ideas. Then he took the rabbit in his hand and tried it out. He didn't notice that his actions were noticed by a passenger who came down from the Lingwang Palace and belonged to the Zero Division. Throughout Soul Society's long history, there has been no shortage of talent. The actions of a teenager are, without a doubt, acts of genius. Unfortunately, without finding the right method, coupled with the lack of basic knowledge, the teenager is doomed to fail. But it doesn't matter. Passenger chose to give pointers, so the boy is destined to succeed. Chapter 61. Gift of Senjimura after pointing the teenager for a few days. The mysterious visitor from Team Zero meets Shutara Senjimura again. I've already made up my mind. I can go to the Lingwang Palace anytime. Looking at the man in front of him, Shudara Senjimura said, "Oh." Hearing this answer, the man was a little surprised. He was very clear about Shudara Senjimura's insistence, but he didn't expect that he would change his mind in just a few days. Why exactly? Although very curious, the man did not ask after all. He said in a deep voice, "Since you've already thought about it, that's really great." All in all, Shutara Senjumaru agreed to go to the Soul King Palace and join the Zero Division. This is good news. With the addition of Shutara Senjumaru, they can better protect the Soul King. Earlier, the Spirit King had abnormal movements because there were too few people guarding the Spirit King. At present, there are only 3 of them, and they are really powerless. If there is one more person, there will be another palace in the Zero team, and because of the extra cornerstone power, the existence of the Lingwang Palace will be more stable. Because going to the Zero team, some preparations still need to be done. The man also didn't let Shudo, 29 Luo Senjumaru, go to the Zero team immediately. Next, she was given some time to make some preparations. After all, Shutara Senjumaru has been in Siriidii for so many years. There are always some things that need to be dealt with. The same is true. During the next period of time, Shutara Senjumaru went to meet some people and explain some things. Finally, she brought another thing and came to Gosuke Shigure. In the 11th team, Gosuke Shigure seemed a little surprised that Shutara Senjumaru would come to find him. She was wearing a loose garment, and she hid the 6 skeletons behind her in the loose garment, which made her appearance more beautiful and elegant than before, and she lost that ferocious meaning. An officer of the 11th team was also a little surprised after bringing Shutara Senjumaru to Gosuke Shigure. Unexpectedly, the captain of his family met such a beautiful girl unexpectedly without any notice. The girl even took the initiative to come to the door. As expected of Kenpachi's adjutant in the past, Kenpachi's personality is really similar to Kenpachi's today. In the past, Kenpachi, who used to cut house, often hooked up with girls from other teams, and he was famous for his flair. You go back first. Gosuke Shigure ignored the player's wild thoughts and let him back down. For a while, because there was no vice-captain, there were only Gosuke Shigure and Shutara Senjumaru in the captain's room. "Senjumaru, what can you do for me?" He looked at Shutara Senjumaru and asked softly. "Kuei Dao, is it because I was drunk and went to Senjuwan before, but can Fong pay attention? Or is it because the other party has an insight into what I said at the beginning, which is actually a lie?" Gosuke Shigure felt more and more that drinking was harmful. To be honest, after waking up, thinking about what he did when he was drunk, he also regretted a little. "While I was drunk, I ran to find Senjuwan. They are clearly prepared to sever any relationship with their previous life, without any involvement. Because if he really wants to be involved with the previous life, there are too many people who have been involved with him during the time he lived in the previous life." Shutara Senjumaru wasn't offended that Gosuke Shigure called him by his first name. She said calmly, "I'm leaving Soul Society." "Leaving the Soul Society?" Gosuke Shigure frowned slightly. Shutara Senjumaru didn't explain too much. "Before I leave, I'm going to give this to you." As she spoke, skeletal arms protruding from under her baggy robe, she handed a bag to Gosuke Shigure. Gosuke Shigure was a little curious, but took the bag anyway, not caring that Shutara Senjumaru was right in front of him. Gosuke Shigure immediately opened the bag and took a look. "Is this a dead bully outfit?" "That's right." Shutara Senjumaru nodded. "The size of this suit is about the same as your figure, so you should be able to wear it. Originally, I wanted to destroy it, but after thinking about it, I felt that it would be a pity to destroy it, so I will give it to you." Gosuke Shigure was thoughtful. "From what you said, this set of Death Tyrant outfit doesn't seem to be an ordinary Death Tyrant outfit. It's a bit special." Shutara Senjumaru doesn't explain much. He just added another sentence. "Since you obtained that person's belongings by chance, I hope you can make good use of the treasures it left behind. At the same time, you also have an obligation to make his name known to the world again. Remember, his name is Tsuneshiro Shusui." This is a name Shutara Senjumaru said before leaving. Tsuneyeo was once the head of the 5 nobles of the Soul Society. Later, due to some reasons, it declined slightly, and the position of the head of the great nobles fell to the current Kachiki family. But before Godei 13 was established, the Tsuneshiro family was a real dignitary. However, among such a high and mighty aristocrat, a different kind emerged. Its name is Tsuneyedai Shusui. This name is very similar to Kairaku Shuinsui's name, except that one is called Kushui and the other is called Chunsui. Fortunately, These two people are not from the same era. Kairaka Shunsui wasn't even born when Tsushiro Shusui died. Otherwise, with their extremely similar dissolute personalities, they would definitely become good friends. Gosuke Shigure also did not expect that before Shudara Senjimaro left, he would suddenly mention this famous official. For many Shinigami, this name is familiar. Only this surname has an unusual meaning. But for Gosuke Shigure, the name is all too familiar, because he used to use this name for many years. If the world remembers this name, forget it. After all, what has passed away has already passed away, so this name should completely disappear in the long river of time. He spoke softly, obviously. He was not willing to accept Shutara Senjimaru's request before he left. Then, he took out the Death Bully outfit from the bag that Shutara Senjimaru handed over. As soon as he got the Death Fighter costume, he felt the difference. On top of this Death Domineering outfit, he felt extremely powerful spiritual power, and this spiritual power was very familiar. It was clearly the spirit child of his previous life. So, you took my spiritual power back then, and you used it to make this Death Fighter outfit? Gosuke Shigure couldn't help but suddenly realized. Chapter 62, Special Death-Based Costume. Gosuke Shigure also wondered where the familiarity of that night came from. I am afraid it is due to my own spiritual power. Back then, Shudara Senjimaru had extracted a large part of his spiritual power. Unexpectedly, Shutara Senju actually preserved those spiritual powers and did not let them dissipate into spiritual particles. As his thoughts flowed, Gosuke Shigure's gaze fell back on the deadly outfit that Shutara Senjimaru gave him. On the surface, it seems that because the original owner of this deadly costume has died, Shutara Senjimaru didn't want this deadly costume to be destroyed like this, so he gave it to himself. But in any case, for Gosuke Shigure, this late suit returned to his hands in another way after all. Gosuke Shigure quickly changed the Dead Fighter outfit. It was also after putting on this set of Dead Bully outfits. He just now discovered what is so special about this deadly domineering outfit. After putting on the Death Tyrant costume, the first thing he felt was that his spiritual power was being lost. To be precise, it was being absorbed by the Death Tyrant costume on his body. After the Seba outfit absorbed the spiritual power, it stored it in the clothes. Of course, in the final analysis, this is just a piece of clothing after all. There is a limit to the spiritual power it can store. Although Gosuke Shigure's spiritual power is not particularly strong, it is full of potential. Since his rebirth, his spiritual power, that is, Ryatsu, has been in a state of rapid growth. Even now, Gosuke Shigure does not know his limit where will be. But what is certain is that when Ryatsu grows to a certain level, it will enter the bottleneck, which is the so-called threshold. After reaching that point, it is not easy to continue to break through. Aizen in the original book created Jayaku just because he was approaching that limit and in order to continue to evolve. In addition to Jayaku, the Hollow experiment and the Aaron-Karization experiment are also all kinds of experiments he conducted in order to break the limit. It turns out that Aizen is indeed a genius, and he succeeded. Whether it is Shinigami's Hollow, that is Aaron-Karization, or the virtual Shinigamization, that is Aaron-Karization, it has made the original individual stronger. Of course, this does not mean that these Shinigami-ized or hollowed individuals have reached their own limit. In the end, what they call breaking boundaries is nothing more than forced birth under the power of Jayaku. Only those who reach their own limit without resorting to any power and then break the limit are truly powerful. In such existence, in this world from ancient times to the present, there are actually not many. In his previous life, Gosuke Shigure was strong, but he didn't reach the limit of Shinigami either. In this life, Ryatsu has grown at such a high speed, which is something that Gosuke Shigure has never experienced in his previous life. You must know that his Ryatsu has reached the so-called captain level as early as when he was fighting Kenpachi in Mole City. If you carry out Shirkai, Bankai, Ryatsu will also skyrocket. Gosuke Shigure really wants to know what kind of ending this life can lead to. As for the original him, he had the idea of being an ordinary Shinigami when he was reborn. With all kinds of accidents, as he became the captain of the 11th team and became Kenpachi, it seemed to have become a luxury. After carrying the name of Kenpachi, he is destined to live an ordinary life, and he has no chance to do so. Well, you can't say that if you can survive until retirement, you can still live a normal life. Returning to the topic, after reaching a certain limit, absorbing his spiritual power with the dead bully outfit. Gosuke Shigure also gradually realized the difference in this set of dead bully outfits. This deadly domineering outfit is like having life. He can manipulate it to his will. For example, during the battle, he can let the spiritual power stored in the Death Fighter outfit gushes out to form a powerful Ryatsu barrier, lingering on the Death Fighter dress, giving himself a strong defense. Because this is the spiritual power absorbed by the dead bully outfit in advance, so when fighting, it will not affect your own spiritual power. It's somewhat similar to Aaron Carr's steel skin. Gosuke Shigure thought so. The steel skin is a unique ability possessed after Aaron Carr's words, and the price is the loss of the high-speed regeneration of the Minos Grande period. Although it lost the ability of high-speed regeneration, the steel skin endowed Aaron Carr with extremely powerful defense. Ordinary Shinigami's Zampakit, if not powerful enough, can even break through its defenses. It seems that this ability is not as good as high-speed regeneration, but it is not. A strong defense means that you have a great advantage in battle. But high-speed regeneration is good. But without a strong defense, others can hit you to the point of high-speed regeneration, and naturally they can easily kill you. Moreover, every high-speed regeneration will consume a lot of spiritual power. If you can't deal with the enemy during the regeneration, what awaits you is to perish in weakness. Of course, there are also people who hold different views. Generally speaking, steel skin and high-speed regeneration have advantages and disadvantages of each other. Moreover, not all Aaron Carrs have lost high-speed regeneration, and there are a few special cases that still retain the ability of high-speed regeneration, such as Ulquiorra. Gosuke Shigure's Death Tyrant outfit, after absorbing spiritual power, can be released in battle, forming something similar to Aaron Carr's steel skin to give himself defense. But then, Gosuke Shigure thought of something else. It's not so much the steel skin, it's better to say it's the Quincier's static blood outfit. The steel skin is the skin of Aaron Carr that gives Aaron Carr an extremely strong defense. And the defensive layer on top of his Death Tyrant outfit is formed by spiritual power, which is more similar to Quincy's static blood outfit. The Quincy Master can manipulate abilities. He can turn his spiritual power into a static blood suit to give himself a strong defense, and he can also use a moving blood suit to give himself powerful power. Gosuke Shigure also suddenly thought of the unique ability of the Quincy, Hao Zhao. In addition to the ability to absorb spiritual power and form a strong defense in battle, this siege suit also has the standard abilities of a normal siege suit, such as absorbing Shinigami's spiritual power to repair itself. What Gosuke Shigure cares more about is another ability and a half. Can replenish magic. As we all know, the Battle of Shinigami is the Battle of Ryatsu. And Ryatsu is the external manifestation of spiritual power released. During the battle, especially after casting Bankai, although Ryatsu will skyrocket, but also, in that case, the consumption of Ryatsu will also be doubled. Therefore, ordinary Shinigami will not use Bankai at the beginning of the battle, but use it as a killer. And if you don't want to use the spiritual power absorbed by this set of death domineering equipment as a super defense, you can use the spiritual power stored in it as a backup energy to supplement yourself after the battle. Medium worn out Ryatsu. Chapter 63. Invitation from Shihoin's house, Senjimaru. You really surprised me. Gosuke Shigure sighed. Although there are only these two abilities that really deserve his attention in this deadly domineering outfit. But in the final analysis, after all, it is just a set of clothes, and it is extremely difficult to make a set of clothes have these abilities. But that being said, for Gosuke Shigure, these two abilities are enough. The battle of the strong sometimes is a battle of the slightest. For example, if one's defense is a little stronger, for example, one's battery life is a little longer, it is possible to win the battle. Of course, this refers to an evenly matched situation. If you encounter a hanging ratio, then there is no way. Gosuke Shigure couldn't help but think of the world he was in. There are not many other things in this world, but Bidwa. So if you think about it carefully, it's quite speechless. From this point of view, the effect of this suit does not seem to be as great as imagined. But no matter what, this is Shudara Senju intention. Gosuke Shigure was able to feel the so-called love from it, even if this love is aimed at him in the previous life. But to him in his previous life, isn't he still the same? Give this Death Fighter outfit to Gosuke Shigure in Shudara Senju. After Gosuke Shigure gradually studied the abilities of 413's deadly outfit, the Siriidii Research Institute under the 12th Squad is also missing a Shinigami. Fortunately, Shudara Senju is not a well-known Shinigami, and very few people in the 12th Division know of her existence. Her disappearance has no effect on the 12th Division, and likewise, no Shinigami pays attention to her whereabouts. For Gosuke Shigure, there are some guesses about the whereabouts of Shudara Senju, although I don't know why Shudara Senju suddenly wanted to leave. But she chose to leave Siriidii, leave Soul Society. There's only one place she can go. That is the Palace of the Spirit King. In other words, it belongs to the subordinate of the Lingwang Palace, the Zero Team. Become the jailer who guards the Spirit King. For many Shinigami who know the existence of the Soul King is above all. For Shinigami who knows the truth about the Spirit King is indeed aloof and the wedge of the whole world. But in essence, he is a prisoner. A prisoner who lost his freedom and was forced to be imprisoned in the Lingwang Palace. The meaning of his existence is to stabilize this world. As long as who can act as a wedge to stabilize the world, then it doesn't matter who is the Spirit King. After a while, helpless Shigure lived a peaceful life again for a while. During this period, he officially promoted Zaraki to be the vice captain of the 11th team. Unlike the appointment of the captain, which requires the consent of Central 46, the appointment of the vice captain is a matter for the captains of their respective teams to decide on their own, and does not need to be approved by Central 46. As for Gosuke Shigure's appointment of Zaraki as the vice captain, the members of the 11th team have no objection, although it didn't take long to join the 11th team. But the Shinigami of the 11th team, what they value is not qualifications, but actual experience. Greater strength in a short period of time has been recognized by all team members. It can be said that Zaraki seems to be more suitable for the 11th team than the old players who have been in the 11th team for a long time. This is a beast born for fighting in Zaraki. They saw a desire to fight stronger than themselves. This once made many members of the 11th team ashamed. Of course, this is not the reason why they recognized Bigger as the vice captain. The real reason is that Zaraki is strong enough. Since joining the 11th team, except for the very beginning, I followed Unohana Retsu to learn some basic knowledge of Shinigami, and made up for the common sense of Shinigami. One of the things that Zaraki does the most is to discuss and communicate with the members of the 11th team. He beat all the 11th team members. This is an extremely incredible thing, but it is what it is. Zaraki won the respect of the players with his strength. The members of the 11th team are also very curious. If such a powerful Zaraki fights with the captain, who will win and who will lose? However, this kind of thing they just think about it in their minds. Although Zaraki loves to fight, he also loves to challenge others. But in front of the captain, he appeared extremely docile, which was an extremely weird thing. It also made many team members curious about what happened between the captain and Zaraki. It's bound to be difficult for them to know the story between Gosuke Shigure and Zaraki. On the contrary, Gosuke Shigure, after appointing Zaraki as the vice captain, completely idled down. Whenever there is a combat mission, he will hand it all over to Zaraki and let Genshin go to fight. Among them, Minos Grande invaded Soul Society. Zaraki was injured in the process, and Gosuke Shigure ignored it. As a time traveler, he is more aware of Zaraki's potential than ordinary people, and also more aware of Zaraki's strength. What about a mere Minos Grande? Even the most advanced Vasto Lord. Not to mention, there are not many such Minos Grande in the entire Hueco Mundo. Even if they really dared to invade the Soul Society, it might not be a bigger opponent. It's a good thing that Zaraki was injured during the fight with Minos Grande. By using battle to support war, it may be possible to awaken his potential faster and awaken his strength. Because the combat missions were all handed over to Zaraki, Gosuke Shigure only needed to handle some team affairs such as documents in the team, and such team affairs were not many for the 11th team. He was completely idle. Usually, when I have nothing to do, I go to drink some wine with Kaiaraka Shunsui and have some fun in summer. During this period, he had a preliminary understanding of the entertainment venues inside Seriidii. It can only be said that this era is still too backward, and there are too few places for entertainment in Seriidii. It would be great if, when technology develops, there are things like video games in Seriidii, and people can play video games. But that, too, is just Gosuke Shigure's delusion. There is no such thing in modern society, let alone the Soul Society, which develops slower than this world. On this day, Gosuke Shigure received an invitation letter. The invitation letter comes from Shihoin Kanchan, the head of the Shihoin family, who is also the captain of the second team. A long time ago, he had said that he would invite Gosuke Shigure and Kaiaraka Shunsui to drink, but it was delayed until now because of the sudden arrival of the Quincy incident. Chapter 64 5 Nobles. Shihoin's house is located in the central area of Noble Street. To be precise, all the major nobles are located in this area. In the long history of the Soul Society, there have been 5 nobles in total. They are Tsunoshiro, Shihoin, Kachiki, Shiba, and the last big noble IC. The IC family is the most special family among the 5 nobles. Because it is a Shinto family, all generations have been headed by women, and it does not prohibit female members from marrying out. However, at the same time, there is also the curse of this family. Whenever a member gets pregnant shortly after marrying out, her husband will die. Then, because of the death of the husband, the members who marry out will be forced to take them home, and the child she conceived would, if nothing else, be a girl. This girl will bear the surname IC and will continue to pass on the IC family. It is precisely because the IC family is so special that among the several nobles, she appears to be very mysterious, and she has never revealed too much ambition. It seems that the meaning of their existence is only for the inheritance of the family, to protect a certain sacred object passed down from generation to generation in the family. Not to mention the last great nobleman. Just talk about the rest of the nobles. If so, the Tsunoshiro represents the ultimate evil of the nobility, the Kachiki family represents the pedantry of the nobility, and the Shiba family is a group of idealists. Then the Shihoin family is the most powerful among these great nobles. An easy family to get along with. Although he is a great nobleman, he does not have any pretensions of a great nobleman. Whether it is common people or nobles, they all appear to be impartial and extremely fair. It is also for this reason that many small and medium nobles choose to attach themselves to the Shihoin family and are willing to work for the Shihoin family. Because the Shihoin family really treat their families as partners and friends, rather than being driven by slaves. When Gosuke Shigure came to Shihoin's house, good friends Kaiaraka Shunsui and Shure Yukitake had already arrived. They were lounging in the elegant courtyard of Shihoin's house. "Gosuke, you are late." After seeing Gosuke Shigure, Kaiaraka Shunsui greeted him with a smile. Since Gosuke Shigure appointed Zaraki as the vice captain, he has been completely free and has more time to mess around with Kaiaraka Shunsui. The relationship between the two is also getting closer. Kaiaraka Shunsui is also happy to befriend Gosuke Shigure. After all, Gosuke Shigure's strength is undeniably powerful, and the duty of Godii 13 is to protect the Soul Society, and there is no need to confront each other. We are all friends and work together to protect the Soul Society. There was a slight delay on the way. Gosuke Shigure explained a sentence, looked at the courtyard of Shihoin's house again, and said, "Is this the Shihoin's house, one of the 5 great nobles? It's really big. To be honest, it's the first time for me to come here. Then you have to take a good look around." Shure Yukitake also joked to Gosuke Shigure. The area occupied by Shihoin's house is the largest even among several nobles. This is due to the fact that many small and medium nobles are attached to the Shihoin family. A large area around here can be regarded as the territory of the Shihoin family. Oh! Gosuke Shigure became interested when he heard the words, and then looked at Shure Yukitake. As far as I know, Captain Jushiro was also born in a noble family. Could it be that your family is too? It was no secret that Shure Yukitake was born to a lower nobleman, and the entire Shinigami of the Seriidii knew it. Hearing the meaning of Gosuke Shigure's words, Shure Yukitake laughed and said, I would like to attach myself to the Shihoin family, but I still need them to give me this opportunity. Is that so? Gosuke Shigure mused. Sure, Yukitake was about to continue with some innocuous jokes. At this moment, a hearty voice came from the side. Does Captain Jushiro actually want to attach to our Shihoin family? That's really great. If my Shihoin family can be attached to the Jushiro family, it will be even stronger. Kairaku Shunsui, Shuri Yukitake, and Gosuke Shigure looked sideways and saw Shihoin Konchan, who was wearing the captain's Haori, walking over with a smile. Among the group, Gosuke Shigure is a little stranger to Shihoin Konchan. Shuri Yukitake and Kairaku Shunsui have been captains for hundreds of years, and Shihoin Konchan, who has also done the same for many years, is hardly too familiar. It is not the first time for them to come to Shihoin's house, but they also know about Shihoin's character. Shuri Yukitake said with a smile. Forget it, my Jushiro family can still maintain it, and when it really can't continue, I hope Captain Shihoin can accept my Jushiro family. Of course. Shihoin Konchan nodded with a smile. Then his eyes fell on Gosuke Shigure again. Captain Gosuke quickly solved the Quincy in this world and got rid of another serious problem for my soul society. He is really a hero. Gosuke Shigure was very humble. Captain Shihoin praised, I just did my best. Shihoin smiled and said, I don't have any praise. Our Shihoin family can understand the horror of those Quincy masters better than ordinary people. Nearly 800 years ago, the Quincy invaded the Soul Society. With the support of many nobles, Captain Yamamoto established Godei 13. The ancestor of the Shihoin family, is one of the captains of first-generation Godei 13. This sentence immediately aroused the curiosity of Gosuke Shigure, Kairaku Shunsui, and Shuri Yukitake. Gosuke Shigure is curious because when he died in his previous life, Godei 13 was not established at all. On the contrary, Yamamoto Jinrosai's Moto Jijuku has been established, and he has started to teach his apprentices. Kairaku Shunsui and Shuri Yukitake were curious because they were so far away from the era of first-generation Godei 13. Because I didn't personally experience that battle. I don't know the reason for first-generation Godei 13. I only know that after the battle, many captains of first-generation Godei 13 died. Later, after the two of them graduated from Mao, because of their excellent grades and outstanding strength, they were exceptionally selected as the new captain. Shihoin 1,000 Days. This is the name of that ancestor. At the same time, he was also the only one who joined the first-generation Godei 13 among the several great nobles at that time. Shihoin Konchan emphatically raised this point. Although it seems to be just a casual remark, this point also reveals the specialness of Shihoin's family. When first-generation Godei 13 was established, the rest of the great nobles regarded it as a subordinate killer group for their own willful driving. Only the Shihoin family regarded them as companions and even actively joined them. After all, the last great noble has never mentioned it. Of course, the possibility of the Ayase family is not low. After all, there are many roles in the novels of the four great nobles, and the 8 mirror sword like Yenluo Jingdian. It has been passed down from generation to generation. Chapter 65. The Black Cat Gosuke Shigure, Kairaku Shunsui, Shuri Yukitake are certainly not stupid people. After hearing one of Shihoin Konchan's words, he praised the ancestor of Shihoin Konchan's family. Even if the other party is praising their own ancestors, but in Shihoin Konchan's ears, they are praising their own Shihoin family. Several captains, I have prepared drinks. Let's go and drink while chatting. Shihoin Konchan didn't seem to have any pretensions and was extremely approachable. He greeted the three of them, although there are only a few people. But for such a few people, the portion is enough. Perhaps at the moment when Godei 13 was first established, the captain was nothing. But after Shinigami won the battle 800 years ago, Godei 13 became an official organization and settled in Siriidii to protect the balance of the world. The great aristocrats are going to decline a little bit. It is precisely because of the ebb and flow that the Kachiki family became the 6th team and the Shiba family became the 10th team, making the 6th and the 2 major teams successively become the exclusive teams of these 2 families and passed down from generation to generation. In all fairness, Shihoin Konchan looked down on these 2 families. These two teams just saw how strong Godai 13 is, so they couldn't wait to control one of the teams. But their Shihoin family is different. When Godai 13 was first established, when those big nobles looked down on Godai 13, his ancestors had already joined it. It can be said that the current second fan team was established by their ancestors and passed down from generation to generation until now. The Kachiki family of the 6th Division and the Shiba family of the 10th Division are just latecomers. With the three captains, Shihoin Kongshan stepped into the hall of Shihoin's house. In the hall, he had already ordered someone to put away the drinks. The wines are all collected by Shihoin's family, and there are even several altars of fine wines that have been stored for hundreds of years. Although it is a pity to drink such wine directly, but it also depends on who you drink it for. If you drink it for friends, it doesn't look like a pity at all. But when Shihoin Kongshan's eyes fell on one of the jars of wine, his brows raised again. The altar of wine was touched. Although the opponent conceals it well, you must know that the team controlled by Shihoin's family is called Secret Maneuver. As the captain of the second team, Shihoin Kongshan seems to be carefree and has a straightforward personality, but in fact he is thoughtful. He discovered the problem immediately. While I was out, someone sneaked in here and drank the wine here. After thinking for a while, Shihoin Kongshan quickly identified the suspect. Yuruchi. Some angry voices came from Shihoin Kongshan's mouth. As he spoke, he looked towards the corner of the room. A black cat flickered out from the corner of the room, about to escape the hall with an extremely swift movement. However, just when the black cat moved, someone moves faster. It was Gosuke Shigure, who used Shuinpa. He appeared on the black cat's escape route in an instant, and then grabbed the black cat by the back of the neck when the black cat couldn't dodge it. It also captured the fate of the black cat. Shihoin Kongshan, Kayaraka Shunsui, and Sure Yukitake all looked at Gosuke Shigure in surprise. Kayaraka Shunsui and Sure Yukitake know the true identity of the black cat very well because they often come to Shihoin's house as guests. And Shihoin Kachin was amazed by Gosuke Shigure's accomplishments over Shuinpa. The Shihoin family, because they have been in charge of secret maneuvers for generations, their clan members have extremely high attainments in Shuinpa and white hits. For the so-called John Kwanzou Gue, they only learn white hits and Shuinpa. For them, it doesn't matter whether they know Kid or not, and whether they have powerful Zanpakuto. As long as you have learned white hits and Shuinpa to a certain extent, even if the opponent has a powerful Zanpakuto, you can still win the battle. And here is Shihoin Kongshan. He even innovated on the basis of Shuinpa and created a new technique. The new technique is ordered by his name, called Kongshan, which is a more advanced Shuinpa. Being able to outplay ordinary Shuinpa shows just how strong Shihoin Kongshan's Shuinpa is. It was because of his strength that Shihoin's eyes lit up when he saw Gosuke Shigure use Shuinpa, and all his attention fell on Gosuke Shigure. Then also ignore Gosuke Shigure grabbing the black cat by the scruff of the neck. It wasn't until Gosuke Shigure spoke that he came back to his senses. Gosuke Shigure asked curiously, "Is this black cat called Yuruchi? What a unique name." Shihoin Kachin reacted and quickly said to Gosuke Shigure, "Captain Gosuke, please put it down." Gosuke Shigure was perplexed, and just before he was about to put down the black cat spoke, and it said to Gosuke Shigure angrily, "That's right, let go of me quickly." Gosuke Shigure originally planned to put down the black cat, but because he spoke, he was surprised. "Black cat, are you talking? Are you a monster?" He curiously asked the black cat in his hand. "You are the monster." Hearing this, the black cat was a little annoyed. Why did he become a monster? Of course, Gosuke Shigure knew the true identity of the black cat, but it was a meeting after all, and he couldn't express many things, so he pretended to be curious. After hearing what the black cat said, I became more and more puzzled. Of course, Gosuke Shigure put down the black cat because of Shihoin Kachin's opening. The black cat landed on the ground and immediately prepared to escape from here. However, Shihoin Kongshan's words came out of its mouth first. "Change your clothes and come here later. If you don't come, you should know the consequences." The black cat's body froze instantly. Then, the cat left here anyway. Shihoin Kachin no longer had the serious look before, and a smile reappeared on his face. He invited Gosuke Shigure, Kayaraka Shunsui, and Sure Yukitake to drink. Among them, Gosuke Shigure still had the meaning of curious on his face. Obviously, the black cat earlier aroused his interest. But Shihoin Kanchan didn't mean to explain. The Kairaka Shunsui and Sure Yukitake next to it also have no meaning of explanation. After a while, a crisp voice sounded at the door. I understand. Shihoin Kanchan didn't look back and said coldly, come in. A girl with purple hair, ponytails, and tight clothes walked in. The girl is slender and good-looking, and at the same time, she also has the characteristic of Shihoin's family, black skin. Her skin is blackened, and because of her blackened skin, she doesn't look thin and thin. On the contrary, she looks a bit more fit. Chapter 66. Girl Yurichi. After the girl walked into the room, she came to Shihoin Kanchan and sat down cross-legged. She didn't look like a lady at all. When she saw the wine placed in front of Shihoin Kanchan, her eyes lit up, and she wanted to reach out to give it to her. Pour cette faveur, huh? Shihoin glanced at the girl, who smiled awkwardly and politely, and quickly took her palm back. Not being able to drink in front of Grandpa made the girl a little depressed. Even this time, she still had to come. After all, Grandpa has already discovered her. If he doesn't come, he will inevitably be settled by Grandpa after autumn. Her gaze fell again on Gosuke Shigure, who had grabbed her earlier. The girl praised Gosuke Shigure with a strange tone. Your Shuinpa is really amazing. In the form of a cat, because of its smaller size, Shuinpa was actually faster than in the human form. As a result, the man came late and caught himself first. Thinking of this, the girl couldn't help feeling a little frustrated. It seems that the level of Shuinpa that I am usually proud of is actually nothing. You are. Gosuke Shigure looked at the girl, pretending to be curious. The girl was about to introduce herself, but Shihoin Kanchan spoke first. She is my granddaughter, Shihoin Yuruchi, and the black cat that Captain Gosuke caught earlier. Oh. Upon hearing this, Gosuke Shigure immediately looked at the girl Shihoin Yuruchi in surprise. Shihoin Yuruchi sensed Gosuke Shigure's gaze and was also thoughtful. And then she thought of something. You are wearing the Captain Haori, so you are one of the captains of Godii 13, and as far as I know, one of the captains of Godii 13, there is only one captain named Gosuke. So, you are the current captain of Team 11, Gosuke Kenpachi? Although he has not yet studied at the Spiritual Arts Academy, Shihoin's family is a well-known nobleman, and their family education is extraordinary. Shihoin Yuruchi was given the knowledge of Shinigami by his grandfather when he was very young, so she also knows a thing or two about Godii 13. She is also very clear about what Kenpachi means. Before Gosuke Shigure could speak, she quickly praised her grandfather Shihoin Kanchan. Grandpa, yes, you can actually bring Kenpachi home to drink. Hey, Miss Yuruchi, I don't like what you say. Jushiro and I are also here this time. Yuruchi, didn't you see us? Shihoin Yuruchi said with a corner of his mouth. You still have the nerve to say that you bring Captain Jushiro to my house every now and then for a drink. Captain Jushiro can't drink because of his poor health. In the end, you drank all the good wine. Originally, if you didn't drink it, all the wine would be mine in the future. Miss Yuruchi, you have wronged me. I'm not the only one who drank this wine. Obviously, your grandfather, Captain Shihoin, also drank it. Kairaku Shunsui quickly defended himself. Shihoin was stunned for a moment, and then he came to his senses. That's right. She quickly looked at her grandfather Shihoin Kanchan. Grandpa, you should drink less alcohol in the future. Drinking is not good for your health. Shihoin Kanchan looked at Shihoin Yuruchi with a half-smile. I think you want me to drink less wine, and leave it to you. Unexpectedly, Shihoin Yuruchi didn't refute this, but admitted frankly, yes, that's it. Humph! Shihoin snorted coldly. Don't worry, I will definitely drink up all the wine, and I won't leave it to you. Let's go! Shihoin Yuruchi exclaimed, with deep grief in his words. A farce. It can be regarded as letting Gosuke Shigure see how the Shihoin family get along with the grandparents. Sure, Yukitake and Kairaka Shunsui obviously have known Shihoin Yuruchi for a long time, and also know how Shihoin Yuruchi and Shihoin Kanchan get along, which is not surprising. As an outsider, Gosuke Shigure saw Shihoin Yuruchi for the first time. Naturally, he had to show a normal attitude. He looked at Shihoin Kanchan and couldn't help but sigh. The way Captain Shihoin and Miss Yuruchi get along is really amazing. Unique yet. Shihoin Kanchan shook his head and said, Don't mention it. Because of this girl, my heart is broken. Gosuke Shigure said, The so-called broken heart just proves that Captain Shihoin cares about her. If he didn't care about Ms. Yoruchi, how could he worry about her? Shihoin Kanchan was also taken aback. He didn't expect Gosuke Shigure to say such a thing. He smiled lightly and didn't deny it. Shihoin Yoruchi couldn't drink because his grandfather was around, so he could only suppress his greed, and at the same time turned his eyes back to Gosuke Shigure. Captain Gosuke is indeed Kenpachi. He caught me easily earlier. Yu Shuinpa is much stronger than my grandfather. At least he missed me many times. Because Grandpa doesn't let him drink, Shihoin Yoruchi doesn't mind belittling him in front of outsiders. Shihoin Kanchan is also a person who cares about face. Hearing this, he quickly defended, "I let you go because you are my granddaughter. Otherwise, how could you escape?" "Really? I don't believe it." Shihoin Yoruchi looked at Shihoin Kanchan suspiciously. 907 This annoyed Shihoin Kanchan even more. This girl clearly did it on purpose. Because she knew that there were outsiders around, she deliberately belittled herself to anger herself. Seeing this, Gosuke Shigure quickly said, "Captain Shuinpa accomplishments are obvious to all. Although my Shuinpa is not bad, it is still not worth mentioning in front of Captain Shun." With these words, Shihoin Kanchan has finally stepped down, and his complexion has improved a lot. And he also said, "Where is it? Captain Gosuke Shuinpa is not weak." The two of them exchanged business for a while. Immediately, he casually mentioned something to Gosuke Shigure. "Since Yoruchi admires Captain Gosuke so much and thinks that your Shunpa attainment is superior to mine, I don't know, Captain Gosuke, would you be interested in pointing out Yi too? This kid has a natural interest in Shunpa, white hits, and some talent." As Kenpachi, Captain Gosuke's accomplishments in these two aspects are obviously extraordinary. He directly asked Gosuke Shigure to teach Shihoin Yoruchi. Hearing this, Gosuke Shigure couldn't help but think of what Kayaraka Shunsui said when he was alone with Kayaraka Shunsui after drinking that day. In the mind, for words appeared. Green and yellow do not answer. Chapter 67 Special Cases. It can only be said that every family has a scripture that is difficult to recite. Even the great nobles are not exempt from vulgarity. Although the great aristocrats have abundant resources, their members have no worries about food and clothing since birth and receive the best education. This makes the probability of strong people born among them much higher than that of ordinary people. But there will also be some accidents. For example, the members of successive generations have mediocre qualifications and are unable to undertake the great cause of the family. For example, there was a faint head of the family because of some wrong decisions. The family declined and then was eaten away by the rest of the nobles. Thanks to the current era, because of the establishment of Central 46, under the mutual balance of the nobles of all parties, those who directly entrust other nobles basically rarely happen in the open. Placed in a time when Central 46 was not established. The so-called nobles are a group of hungry dogs and wolves. Once the other nobles show signs of weakness, they will rush forward one after another and devour them. In the previous era, only strength could protect one's own family. The Shihoin family, as the great nobles who have come all the way in that era, are more aware of the importance of strength than ordinary people. Although the times are good now, but this does not mean that the family can decline. Only qualified heirs must be able to take on important responsibilities. According to what Kayaraku Shunsui said that day, today's Shihoin's family has a problem of incomplete acceptance. Shihoin Kanchan is undoubtedly a strong generation, and his strength is penultimate. But he is old after all. His son, with average qualifications, is not enough to carry the burden of Shihoin's family. Right now, it looks like Shihoin Kanchan is ready to hand over the burden of the family to Shihoin Yoruchi. But Yoruchi is still young after all. It will take time for her to grow up. Under normal circumstances, it would be natural for Shihoin Kanchan to continue for a few more years. Wait until Yoruchi grows up, and then hand over the burden of the Shihoin family to her. But no one knows whether there will be accidents during this period. After all, in these years, there are actually some captains who died in battle. In such a situation, it is actually necessary to form some good karma with other strong people. At the critical moment, the other party might be able to help Shihoin's family. Kayaraka Shunsui and Shuri Yukitake, the two captains who also came from aristocratic backgrounds and have served as the captain for many years, have always been friends with Shihoin Kanchan. He often invites these two to his house as guests. Shihoin Konchan believes that if Shihoin's family is really in trouble, these two will not hesitate to help. As for Gosuke Shigure, he is the newly rising master of Godai 13. Originally, Shihoin Konchan didn't intend to make friends with Gosuke Shigure, but because of the excellent relationship between Kayaraka Shunsui and Gosuke Shigure, it was beyond Shihoin Konchan's expectation, which made Shihoin Konchan see a chance to make friends with Gosuke Shigure. If Gosuke Shigure can agree to help teach Yoruchi right now, even if it is only for a few days, but in name, at least there will be a master-student friendship, which could be regarded as pulling Gosuke Shigure onto the chariot of the Shihoin family. So, is Gosuke Shigure willing to agree? After those words were finished, Shihoin Konchan kept looking at Gosuke Shigure. In his view, Gosuke Shigure could be forgiven for refusing. He can understand. However, to the surprise of Shihoin Konchan, Gosuke Shigure actually agreed to this matter. Since Captain Shihoin is so flattering to me, I will teach Ms. Yoruchi for a while, and I am not sure whether my teaching is okay. Let her improve. As soon as this remark came out, Sure Yukitake on the side frowned slightly. He wanted to say something, but in the end he didn't speak. Shihoin Konchan said excitedly, "It's great that Captain Gosuke is willing to teach Yoruchi." He hurriedly said to his granddaughter Yoruchi, who was still arguing with him earlier, "Yoruchi, hurry up and call the teacher." Although Shihoin Yoruchi is not very old, she received noble education from the Shihoin family when she was very young. She is also an extremely smart person, and she does not understand the good intentions of her grandfather. At this time, there is no choice to talk back to Grandpa. Instead, he addressed ugly Assistant Shigure honestly and respectfully, "Teacher." A reception, until now, has completely changed its nature. Although Shihoin's house did not hold a grand apprentice banquet, it was when Shihoin Yoruchi called Gosuke Shigure his teacher. Between them, there is already the title of master and apprentice. It seems because Gosuke Shigure promised to teach Shihoin Yoruchi something. Next, Shihoin Konchan persuaded him to drink more frequently. During this period, Kayaraka Shunsui and Sure Yukitake inevitably exchanged cups with Shihoin Konchan. Because of his health, Sure Yukitake drank slightly less, while Kayaraka Shunsui drank more. So it's no wonder that Shihoin Yoruchi complained that Kayaraka Shunsui drank all the good wine in the house. Drink and eat. The three captains left Shihoin's house hand in hand. Sure Yukitake waited until he left the aristocratic street where Shihoin's house was located, and then glanced at Gosuke Shigure hesitantly. Kayaraka Shunsui glanced at his friend's expression. Knowing what his friend was thinking, his eyes fell on Gosuke Shigure again. "Gosuke, you are too reckless." Gosuke Shigure's face was reddish, a little bit drunk. He smiled and said to Kayaraka Shunsui, "The leader of the Beijing band wants to say that I promised to teach Ms. Yoruchi?" Kayaraka Shunsui nodded. Gosuke Shigure said, "I know Captain Jushiro has always wanted to remind me that when I agreed to this matter, it was tantamount to putting a label on myself. This label is the label of Shihoin's family. Although the Shihoin family is a great aristocrat, once it is really labeled as belonging to the Shihoin family, it is not a good thing. If Shihoin's family is in its prime, that's okay. If something happens to Qian Zhao, I will inevitably be implicated." Sure Yukitake said in a deep voice, "Since Captain Gosuke knows why." "Because they are Shihoin," Gosuke Shigure said as a matter of course. "Don't you think that I agreed to this matter because of their status as great nobles? Even if they are both great nobles, it depends on who the target is. If it was Tsuyoshiro, Kachiki, or Shiba, I wouldn't agree to this easily. But Shihoin's words are different." Gosuke Shigure gave an explanation. Among the several nobles, the Shihoin family is the only special case. Regardless of previous life or this life, Gosuke Shigure can sincerely feel the difference between Shihoin and the other great nobles. Although the people in Shiba's family are quite good, but they can't stand Shiba's family is already in jeopardy. Gosuke Shigure doesn't want to get involved with Shiba's family at this time. Chapter 68. Shuinpa's theory. The so-called Shuinpa is a footwork that condenses Ryatsu on the soles of the feet, makes Ryatsu explode, and then pushes one's body, making oneself have high mobility. For Shinigami, Shuinpa is a very basic technique, but it is not an easy task to use it well. Gosuke Shigure is a man of great credibility. Since he agreed to Shihoin Konchan's teaching Yoruchi, He quickly assumed the role of teacher and taught Yoruchi in a training ground of Shihoin's house. Yoruchi didn't turn into a black cat in front of Gosuke Shigure, but remained in human form. Because of the family's secret technique, the Shihoin family can perform mimicry and turn into animals like black cats. But there is a problem. That is, after turning into a black cat, because of the shrinkage and change of body size, the clothes on oneself will fall off. And when it turns back again, it will be in a naked body state and needs to put on clothes again. In any case, Yoruchi is also a girl. Even if she is careless, she still has some shyness and embarrassment that she should have. Naturally, it is impossible to get naked in front of Gosuke Shigure. Generally speaking, the speed of Shinigami Shuinpa depends on Reiatsu. The stronger the Reiatsu, the more explosive power the Reiatsu can produce, which makes it faster. The most notable example is Kurosaki Ichigo. It didn't take long for Kurosaki Ichigo to learn the technique of Shuinpa, but his Shuinpa is definitely not slow because his Reiatsu is too strong. Of course, Reiatsu's determination of Shuinpa's speed is not an absolute statement. In addition to the strength of Reiatsu, the skill of Shuinpa is also the key. If you can master the subtle skills, you can accurately control the strength of each release of Reiatsu so as to achieve precise and no delay in Shuinpa. After all, combat is an ever-changing situation. If you can make every step you take be incomparably exquisite, without any delay, it means that you will have more time to cast more Shuinpa, thus gaining faster maneuverability than others. In the training ground, Gosuke Shigure slowly told Yoruchi about Shuinpa. Among them, there are some Yoruchi is known. After all, the Shihoin family is known for its Shuinpa and white hits methods. She learned Shuinpa from her grandfather Shihoin Kanchan when she was very young. But it has to be said that Gosuke Shigure is indeed worthy of the name of Kenpachi. Yoruchi benefited a lot from some of the claims he made. That is to say, teacher, is it because your Shuinpa doesn't have too many extra movements that it's so fast? That's why you were able to catch me so easily that day. That day, she was stealing wine in the form of a black cat. After she was discovered by her grandfather, she immediately cast Shuinpa to escape, but she was easily caught by Gosuke Shigure, who came later. This made her extremely depressed. Now, Yoruchi seems to understand something. The feeling is that my Shuinpa has too many redundant actions. In such a situation, even if I cast Shuinpa first, I will still be caught up by Gosuke Shigure. Gosuke Shigure told Yoruchi about some of Shuinpa's skills, and then gave Yoruchi Shuinpa some advice in public. With Shuinpa, Yoruchi has already mastered it. There is not much that Gosuke Shigure can teach. He can only give some pointers based on his experience in his previous life. In fact, even if he doesn't teach anything. After all, Shihoin Kanchan would ask Gosuke Shigure to teach Yoruchi just for that title, not really expecting Gosuke Shigure to teach Yoruchi anything. Yoruchi also understands this. However, when Gosuke Shigure actually taught her something useful, she took it very seriously. After teaching Yoruchi Shuinpa, Gosuke Shigure sighed again. Actually, Shinigami Shuinpa is not too advanced footwork. When Yoruchi heard this, he immediately stopped training Shuinpa and looked at Gosuke Shigure curiously. Why did the teacher say that? Gosuke Shigure said with a smile. It's just a feeling. After he finished sighing, he said again, You should know about Quincy. Yoruchi nodded. I have heard a little bit. It is said that the Quincy once invaded our soul society and was finally defeated by Godiai 13 led by the captain. That's right, Gosuke Shigure continued. Although Quincy is a group of losers, I have to admit that some of their skills are actually very powerful. Among them, the footwork they use to move is called Flying Scythe Kick, which is a high-level footwork on top of Shuinpa. Oh! Yoruchi only knew about Quincy, but not much else. Hearing that Gosuke Shigure was so high and looked at the flying sickle feet, he was very curious immediately. Gosuke Shigure continued. The Quincy Masters have the ability to manipulate spirit particles. Flying sickle feet are the steps they condense the spirit particles in the air to form steps under their feet. If they are used proficiently, it means that they can walk on the ground anywhere. Shuinpa isn't bad, but he needs to keep his feet on the ground, which is not the case with Flying Scythe. By using this method, Quincy can even fly in the Soul Society and virtual circles. How can this be? Yoruchi was a little shocked. Shinigami cannot fly in places like Soul Society and Hueco Mundo, where the concentration of spirit particles is extremely high. Only in places in this world where there are very few spirit particles can they stand in the sky and fly wantonly. But the Quincy, because of his scythe feet, can ignore these laws. Yorichi had to admit that Faye Sickle was indeed above Shuinpa. In addition, as far as I know, Minos Grande and Hueco Mundo also has a high-level footwork called ringing, which is a transfer method at the spatial level compared with the sickle kick. Shuinpa even more weird, but there are very few Minos Grande who can master this kind of footwork, so let's not talk about it. After hearing that Hueco Mundo also has a high-level moving footwork, Yorichi was curious at first, but he didn't expect that Gosuke Shigure said halfway. I won't mention it directly. This again made her very depressed. Gosuke Shigure noticed Yorichi's depression, smiled, and didn't say much. Can he say that the method of resonating and turning may not appear in Hueco Mundo at this moment? The world will have to wait until the appearance of Arankar for the resonating and turning to be known. At the moment, Hueco Mundo has a semi-autonomous Arankar, but whether they have mastered the ring rotation is not known for the time being. So Gosuke Shigure didn't mention much about the spinner either. Chapter 69, a trick in theory back to the question of teaching Shuinpa. Gosuke Shigure said, although Shuinpa is only a relatively low-level footwork, not as high-level as flying sickle kick and ringing spin, relatively speaking, it is precisely because of its low level that its plasticity is higher. Because it is not difficult to master, Shinigami can easily display Shuinpa. Similarly, because the technique is simple, Shinigami can also improve it and develop more powerful techniques on the basis of it. As far as I know, your Shihoin family has developed many new techniques for Shuinpa. Yorichi nodded, acknowledging it. Although those skills are the secret skills of Shihoin's family, it does not affect outsiders' knowledge of these things. Her grandpa, in particular, was proud to have developed a new Shuinpa technique, because the new skill was developed by him. So this skill is named Empty Cicada. When Grandpa taught her this skill, Yorichi scorned Grandpa in his heart. At the same time, she also secretly decided that one day she would also develop a new skill, but she would definitely not name it after herself, because that would be too shameful. Back to square one, after acknowledging this, Yorichi thought to himself again, why did the teacher specifically mention this? She immediately asked Gosuke Shigure curiously, Teacher, you specifically mentioned this. Are you going to teach me advanced skills about Shuinpa? Gosuke Shigure said with a smile. I would like to teach you, but I will. Also, Shihoin's family has so many advanced skills about Shuinpa. Isn't it enough for you to learn? A sly smile appeared on Yorichi's face. Even if my Shihoin family has mastered a lot of Shuinpa skills, it's my Shihoin family's, not your master's. You are greedy. Gosuke Shigure shook his head helplessly. But I do have an idea here. If you can realize it, you may be able to greatly improve your mobility and combat ability. When Yorichi heard this, she was very interested immediately. She looked at Gosuke Shigure and asked eagerly, Teacher, tell me quickly. Gosuke Shigure sorted out the words in his mind, and then said it in front of Yorichi. Let's not talk about Shuinpa. Let's talk about Quincy's flying sickle feet first, because Quincy has the ability to manipulate spirit particles, so he can arbitrarily condense spirit particles at any place to form steps under his feet, so as to achieve flying weight in the air. That's why Quincy's flying scythe is more advanced than Shuinpa. Although Shinigami does not have the unique ability of Quincy, for Shinigami, there is also a way to use spiritual power, and that is Kid. Kid! Yorichi didn't understand why Gosuke Shigure suddenly mentioned Kid again. She stared at Gosuke Shigure, waiting for an answer from Gosuke Shigure. Gosuke Shigure said, under normal circumstances, Kid needs to be chanted before it can be displayed. Chanting is like a key that can open a certain door in the dark, so that the power of Kid can be fully revealed. For those who are proficient in using Kid, although they can abandon the chant and forcibly break the door open, but in that case, the power of Kid used will be greatly reduced. Of course, I'm not saying this to teach you about Kid. I want to tell you that under certain circumstances, Kid can be instantly cast. It doesn't matter if it is powerful or not, as long as it has some power. Back to the topic, can we adopt a certain method so that Kid will not be released but wrapped around his body? Concentrate Ryatsu on the palm of the foot and make it explode, which is Shuinpa. If you wrap Kid around the body, Can the whole body have high mobility? At the same time, because Kid surrounds the body, in this state, every gesture can have extremely powerful power. That's right, what Gosuke Shigure said was instant coaxing, which is a fighting technique developed by Yoruichi in the original book, which perfectly combines white hits and Kid. Later, Suifeng also came up with a similar idea. It also developed the instant coaxing. And in the Thousand Years of Bloody War chapter, the two people used new forms of instant coaxing one after another. Gosuke Shigure doesn't know if the current Yoruichi has a similar idea. Probably not. Seeking Flower Zero, but he doesn't mind telling Yoruichi about similar ideas ahead of time. It would be even better if Yoruichi could develop the instantaneous in advance. Gosuke Shigure, as the proponent of this theory, has no problem learning how to use the instant trick from Yoruichi, the successful implementer. As for Gosuke Shigure trying it himself, he thought about it and gave up. Had, Bakud, Cade, and many others created new Kid privately. There are hundreds of them in total. It is extremely difficult to find a Kid that is suitable for instant use among these Kid things. And even if a suitable Kid is found, how to control the frequency of the Kid output is a big problem. More importantly, even if the method of instant coaxing is created for Gosuke Shigure, it is just icing on the cake, not a gift in the snow, and the improvement of his combat effectiveness is not particularly great. Correspondingly, creating it requires a lot of time. So, it's better to leave this kind of thing to Yoruichi. After all, she is young and has plenty of time. And it seems that Yoruichi also has a great interest in this kind of thing. Surround Kid around the body, so that the body has strong mobility and destructive power? Yoruichi whispered to himself, explaining Gosuke Shigure's thoughts. Gosuke Shigure's words seemed to open a door for her. Let her see a completely different new world. It sounds like a good idea. Gosuke Shigure lowered his head, looked at Yoruichi and said, if you think it's good, you can try it, of course. Everything must be done under the condition of ensuring your own safety. After all, some Kid are still very dangerous. Also, if you succeed, you have to let me know. After babbling a few words, Gosuke Shigure resumed teaching Yoruichi. After a day of teaching, Gosuke Shigure left Shihoin's house and returned to the 11th team. After all, he is the captain of the 11th team, not a tutor. Today I just took the time to teach Yoruichi. I don't know when the next time I will teach Yoruichi. Chapter 70 Art is Explosion. Gosuke Shigure returned to the 11th team and dealt with the accumulated team affairs documents. It took about 10 minutes to finish all the team affairs, and fell into a leisurely and rotten situation again. Shihoin's house, after Yoruichi continued to practice for a while, then returned to the room. The Shihoin family is very big. After all, they are well-known aristocrats. In the long years, although the reputation is not as good as Tsunyashiro, Kachiki, and Shiba, it has been passed down for a long time and has never declined. Shihoin Yoruichi, as the little princess of the Shihoin family, did not return her room. Perhaps because of her carefree temperament, her room looked a bit messy, not at all like a lady's boudoir. After all, she herself was not a lady of the family. The idea that Gosuke Shigure said today seems a bit outrageous, but it just hit the bottom of Yoruichi's heart. 880. The Shihoin family has been studying the techniques of Shuinpa and white hits for many years, and has successfully created a lot of secret techniques of Shuinpa and white hits. Yoruichi has been listening to his grandfather boasting that he created a Shuinpa technique when he was very young. I also made up my mind in my heart, and I have to create a similar technique myself. But how to create it, she has no idea at all. Gosuke Shigure's words made her see a way. Combining Kid and white hits is a new idea that no one has ever come up with. But before that, there is one more problem. I don't know Kid. Although Shihoin Yoruichi was taught the methods of Shuinpa and white hits by her grandfather since she was a child, it was only to lay the foundation for her to inherit the stunts from the Internal Heat Academy. When she's the right age, she still has to go to the Spiritual Arts Academy to learn the basics of Shinigami. Kid, the common sense knowledge of Shinigami, is taught by Spiritual Arts Academy, so Shihoin Kanchan did not teach Yoruichi. For white hits, Yoruichi would. But because she doesn't know Kid, she has no way to try the idea proposed by Gosuke Shigure. Do you have to wait until you enter Spiritual Arts Academy and learn Kid before the group can try it? Or go learn Kid now? Shihoin Yoruichi thought. But now it's too late to learn Kid temporarily. And in all fairness, her interest in Kid is average. Compared with Kid, Shuinpa and White Hits are more interesting to her. And these are also the two skills she puts the most effort into. Wait, maybe there's someone who will be Kid. Yuruchi immediately thought of someone. Then, she left the room and left Master Shoin's house. A large area near the Shoin family is the area where nobles live. These small and medium nobles are all attached to the Shoin family and are subordinates of the Shoin family. They have worked for the Shoin family for generations. Urahara's home is one of them. The Urahara family is just a small nobleman. There are many such small noblemen in the Soul Society. Although they have the status of nobles, in fact, their life is only slightly better than that of ordinary civilians. Sometimes, if there are more children in the family, life is not even as good as that of ordinary people. After all, as an aristocrat, one has to maintain one's dignity in some places, and maintaining one's dignity requires money. Noble money is not brought by the wind. The big nobles, upper-level and middle-level nobles have their own channels to obtain resources and money. For the small nobles, there are not so many channels. In order to maintain the identity of the nobles, they will not become commoners, attach themselves to the big nobles, and work for the big nobles is the best choice. The reason why Yuruchi came here is because there is a boy in Urahara's generation who is about her age. His name is Urahara Gosuke. This is Yuruchi's best playmate. Gosuke, are you there? After arriving at Urahara's house, Yuruchi started yelling. Not long after, a sullen and taciturn young man with short, light yellow curly hair and a pair of army green eyes came out of the room. The boy seemed very quiet. After seeing Yuruchi, he called out to Yuruchi in a gentle tone, "Master Yuruchi." Yuruchi waved his hand and said casually, "We are old friends. Don't be so polite. I came to see you today because of something important." She stated her purpose and asked Urahara Gosuke, "You know Kid, don't you?" Urahara Gosuke was taken aback when he heard this. Although I haven't entered the Spiritual Arts Academy yet, the so-called Spiritual Arts Academy itself was only established in the past 800 years. 800 years ago, nobility already existed. At that time, the inheritance of nobility relied on family education and family education. Kid skills for ordinary people, if they want to learn, they can only go to Spiritual Arts Academy. But for noble people, if they want to learn about Kid, they can learn it at any time. Urahara Gosuke was very interested in Kid and learned Kid through self-study before entering Spiritual Arts Academy. Shoin Yuruchi knew about this a long time ago, but Urahara Gosuke didn't expect that Yuruchi would come to him because of this incident. He froze for a moment, although he didn't know what Yuruchi was going to do. But after all, he was a big man whom the Urahara family was loyal to, so he nodded. "Very good. Sure, Urahara Gosuke will Kid." Yuruchi couldn't help saying, "I want to do an experiment with you. I have an idea. If it is successfully realized, it may be possible to create a new fighting technique." Yi said to Urahara Gosuke with a self-righteous face. Boom! The sound of the explosion sounded, and the smoke and dust billowed into the air. Among the smoke and dust, Shoin Yuruchi flew out with Shuinpa in his ragged clothes. She was ashamed. The skin color, which was already a bit smoky, looked more 2.1 after the explosion. "Bubba!" Spit 2 mouthfuls in succession. Spit out the dust in the mouth. Shoin Yuruchi first looked at Urahara Gosuke ahead. Urahara Gosuke felt Yuruchi's gaze and immediately panicked, as if it was none of my business. Yuruchi also knew that she shouldn't be angry with Urahara Gosuke. She whispered to herself with a dazed look, "It shouldn't be." In her imagination, she has found Urahara Gosuke who is good at Kid. Logically speaking, she should be able to succeed once. After she succeeds, she can brag in front of her grandpa and let him understand that he created the new Shunpa trick is really nothing. However, the result was beyond Yuruchi's expectation. She failed. Without any warning, it failed directly, and then a violent explosion occurred. Chapter 71. ISE Shrine. Where is the Beijing band leader going? Early in the morning, while Gosuke Shigure was wandering around Siriidi, he bumped into Kayaraka Shunsui. Today's Kayaraka Shunsui looks extremely grand. Although he is still wearing the flowered clothes, with hairpins on his hair, and dressed as male or female, but Gosuke Shigure can feel the seriousness and solemnity from his body sometimes. A person's temperament can be seen. "It's Gosuke. Have you been so busy lately?" After seeing Gosuke Shigure, Kayaraka Shunsui couldn't help complaining. Gosuke Shigure said with a smile, "Yeah, I suddenly became idle. To be honest, I'm not used to such a life." Kayaraka Shunsui immediately complained. "Gosuke, what you said is really annoying." After finishing speaking, he quickly changed his words. "However, I have to admit that your vision is indeed very unique." Appointing Zaraki as the deputy captain and handing over the battle to Zaraki really relieved himself of a lot of work. In particular, the main job of the 11th team is to fight, and you have distributed all the combat tasks that belong to you to 29, and you are even more free than me for a while. No, I can't go on thinking about it anymore. The more I think about it, the more I'm jealous of you." Gosuke Shigure smiled, then suppressed his smile and asked Kayaraka Shunsui, "The leader of the Beijing band hasn't said where you were going so early. Looking at your well-dressed appearance, is it because you are going to meet some important person?" When Kayaraka Shunsui heard this, he was stunned for a moment, and his expression became serious, not the usual out-of-tune look. "It is indeed going to meet a very important person." "Oh." Gosuke Shigure was very curious. Kayaraka Shunsui felt Gosuke Shigure's curious eyes, and he didn't know what he was thinking. Suddenly, he had an idea, and he said to Gosuke Shigure, "Gosuke, you look like there is nothing to do today. Why don't you come with me?" "How?" Gosuke Shigure was stunned for a while, but he didn't refuse the matter. "Since it's the invitation of the leader of the Beijing band, I'll go with you." Kayaraka Shunsui led the way. Gosuke Shigure followed behind him. The two walked among the Siriidii and finally came to the edge of Noble Street. It is close to the forest, and there are actually not many residents living here. Only some small nobles live here. The place where Kayaraka Shunsui brought Gosuke Shigure was even more remote. This is a quaint building mostly located in the forest, and it looks like it has been around for a while. The building is extremely gorgeous, and it doesn't look like a house for people to live in, but like a shrine. Here is... Gosuke Shigure raised his eyebrows slightly, showing a bit of disappointment. Unexpectedly, this place is still there. Kayaraka Shunsui only said that it was the first time for Gosuke Shigure to come here, and he was a little curious. But he didn't explain too much. "I'm going to meet someone, Gosuke. Just walk around here," he said to Gosuke Shigure. Gosuke Shigure nodded. Soon, Kayaraka Shunsui stepped into the ancient house. When he stepped into the courtyard, Gosuke Shigure vaguely saw a beautiful woman coming up. Gosuke Shigure was thoughtful. Then, he wandered around here. From Kayaraka Shuinsui's point of view, Gosuke Shigure is here for the first time, but it's not. In his previous life, Gosuke Shigure visited this place. But at that time, the name here was called Ayase Shrine. Among the island countries in the last life, there is also an Ayase Shrine, whose divine body is the Yada Mirror, which symbolizes the imperial power, and its status is extremely high. The Ayase Jingu in Soul Society may be created by the author corresponding to the Ayase Jingu in the island country. In this world, it is the residents of the Ayase family, the most mysterious family among the 5 nobles in the household soul world. The Ayase family is an extremely mysterious Shinto family with a high status. If it is said that the other 4 nobles are the most honorable nobles under King Ling, second only to the royal family, then the Ayase family is the family that has served King Ling from generation to generation. Of course, this is a statement on the surface. In fact, there has never been such a thing as a royal family. The 5 nobles have been the world's biggest beneficiaries from the very beginning. The so-called Spirit King is nothing more than a mascot they forcibly erected. In order to stabilize the world, they did not hesitate to seal the Spirit King with cruel means. Then, in order to prevent the Spirit King from breaking the seal, the Spirit King was even divided. Among them, the objects used to divide the Spirit King. It is the divine sword 8 Mirror Sword that the Ayase clan has served for generations. The name, obviously, is an artifact derived from the Yada Mirror. The 8 Mirror Sword is a very special Zampiket that is a special attack on the gods. The Ayase family, among the 5 nobles, is also a very special family. It has been dominated by women for generations, and each generation of women has a strong spiritual power in their bodies. Logically speaking, this is a good thing, which means that Ayase, a powerful Shinigami, will emerge every generation of the family. But it has its price, And the price is that no matter how they communicate with the sealed state, they cannot make it evolve into Zampakit. Because the people of the ISE family can only have one Zampakit. That is the artifact 8 Mirror Sword. After each clansman was born, his soul and blood were stained with the curse of the 8 Mirror Sword, which made them only able to use this sword. 860 at the same time, because of the 8 Mirror Sword, their clan also carried the curse from the god, who was beheaded by the 8 Mirror Sword. The curse is that each generation of the ISE family can only give birth to women, although the ISE family can allow men to marry. However, after the marriage, the man will die suddenly every time the woman becomes pregnant. As for why Gosuke is so aware of these things nowadays, of course it was because he had been in love with a woman from the ISE family in his previous life. Unfortunately, because he is also a great nobleman, he is destined not to be able to enter the ISE family. Similarly, the ISE family cannot allow a woman to marry into the Tsuneyashiro family, because the Tsuneyashiro family is not an ordinary family. When entering the Tsuneyashiro family, if the husband dies, not to mention whether it will affect him or not, let alone the ISE family, they will not be able to bring back the married woman. This time I came to ISE Grand Shrine again. Gosuke Shigure looked around again. Although it seems that there is no change from the previous life, but there are actually some differences. In his previous life, Siriidii had not yet been established, and the ISE Shrine was not here. The current ISE Shrine may have been relocated as a whole after the Siriidii was established. However, although it was relocated, the overall appearance is similar to the original ISE Shrine. Chapter 72, Nanao, Longing for Father's Love. Gosuke Shigure knows a little about the woman who met Kayaraka Shunsui. No way, who told him to read the original work. This original work is not only animation, but also manga. To be honest, in his previous life, after reading the ending of the manga, he only had one feeling. Too urgent. It seems that in order to finish the work in a hurry, the author frantically distributes lunchboxes to people, regardless of whether the character has done anything useful during this period. In short, the box lunch must be distributed first. That's right, it's Jushiro. When the Soul Society was in danger, he stood up and stood up. It seemed that he was ready to use his true strength. After all, he had been paddling for too long before that. In the end, he didn't expect that when he paid the price of his life, he finally made a meaningful thing, but in the next moment, he directly failed and died. If only I knew this earlier. It's better not to activate the Shungwa at the beginning and honestly holding Zampakit to fight with the Star-Crossed Knights. In his previous life, Gosuke Shigure had a lot of regrets because of reading manga. This made him excited for a long time after traveling to the Shinigami world in his previous life. Unfortunately, the biggest problem is that the time he travels is a bit early. He traveled to more than 2,000 years ago in the Shinigami plot, which was a time period that was not mentioned in the original book. The only thing related to 2,000 years ago was probably 2,000 years ago, when Yamamoto Jinrasai was in the Soul Society, established a sect, and accepted apprentices. It is not known whether it is a 501 Baoji. Although the time point is relatively early, because of his identity after time travel, Gosuke Shigure in his previous life easily walked to Shinigami's ultimate. He originally planned to live until the beginning of the plot, and at that time, being a hermit grandfather and occasionally pointing out the protagonist Kurosaki Ichigo is also considered some fun. As a result, he didn't expect it and died directly. It's fine if it's completely dead. After waking up, he found himself transformed into Gosuke Shigure, reborn again. This can't help but make the newborn Gosuke feel a lot of emotion. In this life, naturally, one has to be more cautious than in the previous life, because even he is not sure whether he can continue to be reborn if he dies in this life. Gosuke Shigure didn't dare to gamble on that unknown possibility. Not much gossip. Gosuke Shigure knew the identity of the woman whom Kayaraka Shunsui saw because of knowing the plot. The other party should be Kayaraka Shunsui's sister-in-law. Kayaraka Shunsui was originally the second son of the Jingle family, and he had a bad relationship with the big brother. It was not until the big brother married a beautiful sister-in-law who was gentle and beautiful that he often went in and out of the big brother's house. The relationship between the two was also due to relaxation. That sounds weird, but it is what it is. Then the sister-in-law became pregnant. This should have been a good thing, but the good times didn't last long. Kayaraku Shuinsue's big brother died at this time. If so, that's all. As a man, Kayaraku Shunsui is obliged to take care of his infertile sister-in-law. But by chance, his sister-in-law has a well-known surname Ise. According to the rules of the Ise family, a woman whose husband died must be brought back. Even if the Jingle family is a high-ranking noble, second only to a few big nobles, it can't prevent this from happening. Kayaraku Shunsui could only watch helplessly as his pregnant sister-in-law was taken home. However, he did not forget his sister-in-law and the posthumous son in his womb that belonged to his elder brother. Every once in a while, he would come here to see his sister-in-law. Is this some kind of tryst? Gosuke Shigure thought. Afterwards, I took a stroll around the Ise house. The appearance of the Ise family looks similar to the Jingu, so there is the saying of the Ise Jingu. Because this is someone else's territory after all. Gosuke Shigure didn't rush into it either, but just walked around the periphery. Who are you? A soft voice rang in Gosuke Shigure's ear. Gosuke Shigure heard the voice and turned his head to look immediately, but he didn't see anyone. Immediately, he reacted, lowered his head, and saw a delicate and cute little girl looking up at him. Gosuke Shigure frowned and answered the little girl's question with a smile. Just treat me as a traveler passing by here. Traveler? The little girl was stunned for a moment, and then denied it. No, I have been living here, and I have never seen anyone come here, let alone a traveler. You are not a traveler. You came with that person? She looked at Gosuke Shigure with burning eyes. That person? Gosuke Shigure looked at the little girl in surprise. The little girl explained, that's right, it's that person. I actually don't know who he is, but every once in a while my mother will meet him. And every time I meet, she will take me. I was driven out and I was not allowed to meet that person. I sneaked back and glanced at the person's appearance. But because I was worried that my mother would find out, I never saw the person's appearance clearly. The man came again today, and you appeared here too. You must be with him. Can you tell me who he is? Is he my dad? When the last two words were spoken, the little girl looked at Gosuke Shigure expectantly, waiting for Gosuke Shigure to give a definite answer. Listen to you, you don't have a father? Gosuke Shigure didn't answer the little girl's question, but asked her first. There was a look of disappointment on the little girl's face. I haven't seen my father since I was very, very young. But I know. I must have a father. I see. Gosuke Shigure sighed. Hello, Wong. After seeing the little girl, he actually recognized her. Although the other party didn't wear glasses at this moment, Gosuke Shigure still guessed the other party's identity clothes combined with the fact that this is the Ise house. Nanao Ise. In the original book, Kayaraku Shuinsue's vice captain, in the Millennium Blood War chapter, faced a powerful enemy that Kayaraku Shunsui could not defeat even with Bankai, and resolutely waved the 8-mirror sword, thus defeating that powerful enemy. Although she is a woman, she looks weak, but at certain times, she is stronger than a man. It is a female character that Gosuke Shigure admires quite a lot. Gosuke Shigure also never thought that today he would meet Nanao Ise from his childhood here. Listening to the firm meaning in the other party's words, Gosuke Shigure did not tell Ise Nanao the so-called truth. When Kayaraku Shunsui, when Ise Nanao's mother chooses to hide from her, that in itself says something. Chapter 73, if you want to know the truth, you must become a strong one. Although I can understand how you want to see your father, that person should not be your father. As far as I know, that guy is an old bachelor who has not married a wife and had children. Gosuke Shigure explained to Nanao Ise in front of him. Is that so? Ise Nanao's eyes dimmed involuntarily. She always thought that the person who met her mother was her father, but now it seems that it is not. Gosuke Shigure comforted Ise Nanao and said, try to make yourself stronger. Ise Nanao was taken aback, raised her head, and looked at Gosuke Shigure, not understanding why Gosuke Shigure said such words. Although I don't know why your mother didn't tell you about your father, but there must be something hidden and something that makes him scruples. If this is the case, then you should work hard to make yourself stronger. In this world, only the strong are qualified to know everything and ignore all rules. When you become strong enough, you will naturally have the ability to explore the truth. After Ise Nanao heard Gosuke Shigure's words, her mind wavered slightly. To be strong? Do you mean to become a Shinigami? Gosuke Shigure smiled lightly and did not continue to answer Ise Nanao's words, but turned around and left here. Ise Nanao looked at Gosuke Shigure, who turned and left here and was taken aback again, but did not catch up. Although this meeting was brief, 507 only spoke a few words. But Gosuke Shigure really left a deep impression on Ise Nanao when she was a child. For the rest of the time, Gosuke Shigure avoided places where there were people. Walked around a little more. Finally back to the original land, waiting for Kayaraka Shunsui. Kayaraka Shuinsue's meeting with his sister-in-law didn't last long. Gosuke Shigure waited here for a while and saw Kayaraka Shunsui come out with a complicated expression. "It's over." Gosuke Shigure glanced at Kayaraka Shunsui and asked. Kayaraka Shunsui nodded and said in a deep voice, "Let's go." He also didn't explain much to Gosuke Shigure. Gosuke Shigure didn't ask much either. He followed Kayaraka Shunsui and left here in no time. In this business, it doesn't really matter whether he comes or not. It's just a hanging CJFF piece. Kayaraka Shunsui chose to bring Gosuke Shigure, and it was only because of a sudden idea that he left. It wasn't until he left the neighborhood and returned to the commercial street of Siriidii that Gosuke Shigure said to Kayaraka Shunsui, "You don't seem to be in a good mood. Shall we find a place to have a few drinks?" Hearing drinking, Kayaraka Shunsui finally reacted. "It's very kind of you to ask. I just asked." Gosuke Shigure did not refuse either. He himself is not a guest. In his previous life, because of his status as a great nobleman, he had the temperament of returning after all his wealth was gone. Although he is not as rich as his previous life in this life, as the captain of Godii 13, his salary is indeed not low. It is still affordable to treat someone to a drink once in a while. It seems that because of the complicated mood caused by meeting with his sister-in-law, Kayaraka Shunsui took a drink to relieve his worries. After this meal of wine, he was directly drunk on the wine table. Gosuke Shigure was also a little helpless looking at Kayaraka Shunsui, who was drinking away his worries. But after all, he invited Kayaraka Shunsui to drink, so he can only clean up the mess by himself, leaving the izakaya with a drunk Kayaraka Shunsui on his back. After sending him to the 8th Division, Gosuke Shigure has just returned to the 11th team. After returning to Banti, he took a shower and changed his clothes, and Gosuke Shigure resumed his leisurely life. As for why not go to sleep? Of course it's because it's broad daylight, so why sleep? I met Kayaraka Shunsui early this morning, and then accompanied him to the IC house for a walk. When I came back, I drank some wine in the izakaya. Although I did a lot of things, the time actually passed. It's only half a day. Speaking carefully, it seems that I haven't visited Yoruchi for several days. Anyway, I'm also her teacher, so I can teach her something. Gosuke Shigure didn't think it was a problem to be idle like this. Normally, the 11 team members would choose to drink and compete in their free time. But for Gosuke Shigure, he couldn't do this kind of thing. It's so meaningless to fight and kill. As for drinking, didn't you just come back from drinking? So, instead of doing those things, why not visit Yoruchi? Go to Shihoin's house. Even though the Shihoin family is a well-known nobleman, the Shihoin family still treats Gosuke Shigure's visit with extreme caution, especially since they have already known from the head of the family that Captain Gosuke has become Miss Yoruchi's teacher. This makes them hold Gosuke Shigure with great respect. When Gosuke Shigure said that he came to teach Yoruchi, he suddenly learned that Yoruchi was not at home at the moment. "Captain Gosuke, we're going to find Master Yoruchi right now." In order to prevent Gosuke Shigure from coming in vain, the butler of Shihoin's house hurriedly said to Gosuke Shigure. Gosuke Shigure shook his head and said, "No need. I can find Yoruchi myself." This sentence is not Gosuke Shigure bragging. For Shinigami, there are many ways to find out a person's whereabouts. Slap the toe and chase the bird, such as in Bakud, is a means of sensing the opponent's Ryatsu and tracking and capturing its location. As for the Shinigami with strong spiritual sense, they don't even need the assistance of Bakud. They can use their spiritual sense to directly grasp the opponent's Ryatsu and find the opponent's whereabouts. Gosuke Shigure is the latter, and his spiritual sense is extremely powerful. He has a powerful Ryatsu, but unlike Zaraki, who cannot control Ryatsu precisely, on the contrary, he can control his own Ryatsu very precisely. Although Yoruchi has not yet entered the Spiritual Arts Academy, his aptitude is outstanding, And Ryatsu is not bad. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Shihoin Kongshan to regard him as the hope of the Shihoin family. Gosuke Shigure carefully perceived Yoruichi's Ryatsu, and soon found the track of his Ryatsu's disappearance, and then accurately grasped Yoruichi's current movement. Knowing where Yoruichi was, Gosuke Shigure immediately cast Shunpa and rushed there. When he arrived at the destination, his eyes became weird again. Among the Suryaiti, the highest mountain is called Skyaku Hill. On this mountain stands Skyaku, which is a kind of death penalty. Once liberated, it is equivalent to having the power of 1,000,000 Zanpakuto liberated. Powerful. After it is liberated, it will penetrate and cut off Shinigami's body immediately, making Shinigami die in ultimate pain. Rukia Kachiki in the original book was sentenced to Skyaku. And at this moment, according to Gosuke Shigure's perception, Shihoin Yoruichi's Ryatsu is under the ground of the high mountain, Skyaku Hill. Chapter 74 Yoruichi and Kisuke. Underneath Skyaku Hill, there is a huge mountain space. This is of course not natural. It was developed by Shihoin Yoruichi and Urahara Kisuke. At present, this space is not very big. It is only as big as a small training ground because it didn't take long for the two talents to open it up. The reason why they chose to open up such a place here. The reason for everything is that Yoruichi wanted to complete the idea proposed by Gosuke Shigure, a means to combine Kid and White hits. Kid is a means to fight against the enemy, especially Had, which has always attacked the enemy. How difficult it is to surround this kind of extremely destructive Kid on the body. If it is not controlled well, it will cause an explosion. Even though Urahara Kisuke controlled Kid's power extremely well, whenever Kid landed on Yoruichi's body, there would be a violent explosion. Although due to Kid's power, Yoruichi was not seriously injured. But she is the eldest lady of the Shihoin family after all, with a distinguished status. The people of Shihoin's family can see that their young lady is disgraced and embarrassed. They strictly forbid their young lady to do this kind of dangerous experiment. If something happens, they have no way to explain to the owner. Of course, Yoruichi also knew the kindness of the servants at home, but she really wanted to perfect the idea proposed by the teacher. Since at home, because of the experiment, there will be huge movements, so it is good to change the place. So, she conspired with Urahara Kisuke privately and decided to jointly open up a secret base. The reason Yoruichi wanted the secret base was because he wanted a private space where he could practice alone. Urahara Kisuke also wanted a secret base to do various experiments. He always had various novel ideas and wanted to realize them. In the end, the two settled on the location of the secret base. That is the underground of Skyaku Hill. Skyaku Hill is the highest mountain in Suryaiti, and it is the place of execution. In history, there are not many people who were sentenced to Skyaku. In other words, there are basically no people here. It is truly a deserted place. In addition, under the Skyaku Hill, there is a dense forest which provides convenience for them to hide their whereabouts. With the help of Kid cast by Urahara Kisuke, Yoruichi and Urahara Kisuke successfully opened up a space in the ground of Skyaku Hill for training. Because the current strength is not enough, this training ground is not considered it's very big. If you have the ability in the future, it will naturally be expanded, and even for the sake of safety, it's better to put a barrier. In any case, digging underground in Skyaku Hill was a bit of a bad thing. Boom! Boom! A muffled voice echoed beneath Skyaku Hill. Because it is inside the mountain, the sound transmitted outside is minimal, and because the outer layer is a forest, the sound is even smaller. Of course, if some people who have nothing to do are wandering around the Skyaku Hill, after hearing the sound and investigating the source of the sound, they can still find the secret base opened by Yasi and Urahara Kisuke. After all, the current secret base is not covered by enchantment. It is just a simple cave. Shout! Failed again. The smoke and dust dispersed, and the disgraced Yoruichi said unwillingly. After the opening of the secret base, she has been training here, but as a result, she has not succeeded even once, and she has not even seen the hope of success. I think we may be thinking wrong. Urahara Kisuke analyzed softly. Huh? Yoruichi looked at Urahara Kisuke, puzzled. Urahara Kisuke said, "It may be feasible to combine White hits and Kid, but the Kid in it may have to be displayed by yourself. The Kid cast by me, although I can control its power and let it attach to your body, but this is the Kid cast by me after all. As long as you move a little, it will break the balance, then detonate Kid, causing it to explode. If you cast Kid by yourself, because Kid's spiritual power comes from you, you can adjust the frequency of Kid release it will during the battle to match the rhythm of your own battle, and maybe it won't explode. In other words, do I need to learn Kid? Yuruchi frowned slightly upon hearing this. This is really a hassle. However, if you can learn Kid yourself and be able to accomplish this, it would be a good thing. Of course, these are all speculations at the moment. Even after repeated failures, Yuruchi doubted whether his teacher was using a wrong theory to lie to himself. Even if he really learned Kid, he would never succeed at all. That's when Yuruchi thought of his cheap teacher. A familiar voice suddenly came from the side. You guys are so courageous. How dare you open up a secret base under Skyaku Hill? Hearing this voice, the complexions of Yuruchi and Urahara Kisuke changed slightly. They turned their heads suddenly and saw the figure of a man wearing a white haori. Captain? Urahara Kisuke murmured softly in his heart. He just recognized the Captain Haori and knew that this was the captain of Godiai 13, but he didn't know which captain it was. He wasn't a real Shinigami after all, nor did he make it into Godiai 13. Teacher, why are you here? Yuruchi addressed the visitor with an unnatural expression. Urahara Kisuke knows which captain this is, Gosuke Shigure, captain of the 11th team, contemporary Kenpachi. Gosuke Shigure explained to Yuruchi, I have nothing to do today, and I was going to teach you something. When I arrived at Shihoin's house, I found that you were not at home, so I followed your Ryatsu and found this place. It's still like this? Yuruchi was startled when he heard that Gosuke Shigure had found his way. Urahara Kisuke did not expect that there is such a calendar. Just rely on Ryatsu. You can find here. In other words, the secret base they thought was not actually a secret. If anyone wants to find it, they can still be found. It can only be said that although Urahara Kisuke is very smart at the moment, because he is not a real Shinigami, he lacks a lot of common sense knowledge about Shinigami. If Gosuke Shigure knew what Urahara Kisuke was thinking, he would definitely answer yes, that's it. In the original book, Abarai Renji, through the perception of Kurosaki Ichigo Ryatsu, found Kurosaki Ichigo, who was hiding in the training ground under Skyaku Hill and practiced Bankai. For Shinigami, revealing Ryatsu is tantamount to revealing his whereabouts. Chapter 75 Instant Cokes after recovering from the shock. Yuruchi looked at Gosuke Shigure again. Sensei, don't you? Earlier, Gosuke Shigure said that they were very brave. You know, this is the hill of Skyaku, which is the place where the Soul Society is used for execution, and her teacher, Gosuke Shigure, is the captain of Godiai 13. The person who maintains the order of the Soul Society. No one can tell whether the other party will report themselves. So Yuruchi is still a little nervous. Don't worry, I won't report you. Gosuke Shigure is a smart person. Looking at Yuruchi's appearance, he doesn't know what she is thinking. After saying this, ignoring Yuruchi's shock at guessing what she was thinking, Gosuke Shigure said again, however, even if I don't report you to dig a hole here and open a training ground, if you and the boy next to 697 don't take the initiative to hide your Ryatsu, someone will find you here sooner or later. Then what should I do? Could it be that this is not suitable for me to train in private? Yuruchi was a little frustrated and lost when he heard this. Gosuke Shigure said, either you learn how to hide your own Ryatsu, or set up a kid enchantment around this training ground to shield and isolate your Ryatsu inside. Yuruchi said in a deep voice, Kisuke and I have also thought about the enchantment, but at the moment we don't have the ability to create an enchantment. Although Urahara Kisuke has learned some kid by himself, it is only a relatively low-level kid, and arranging large-scale enchantments is something that only high-level Baikud can do. Urahara Kisuke is currently not exposed to this type of knowledge. Of course, this doesn't affect them from having this kind of idea. After they learn how to arrange the enchantment in the future, they will arrange the enchantment here. Gosuke Shigure said softly, I have dabbled in kid, who told me that I am your teacher. Although the location of your training ground is arrogance, I have to say that it is indeed isolated from the world. It's a good place to practice, especially it's located below the Skyaku Hill, where the concentration of spiritual particles is extremely high. It would be a pity to just discard it like this. I will take action and help you build a second barrier. After you grow up, if you feel dissatisfied, you can rearrange the enchantment yourself. Yuruchi was taken aback for a moment. Then he was overjoyed and quickly said to Gosuke Shigure, "Thank you, teacher." The shy boy Urahara Kasuke also thanked Gosuke Shigure. "Thank you, Captain Gosuke." Gosuke Shigure laughed. "Nothing." Immediately afterwards, Gosuke Shigure began to set up a barrier here. Urahara Kasuke was very interested in setting up the enchantment and kept watching Gosuke Shigure, secretly learning. Gosuke Shigure gave Urahara Kasuke some pointers, and at the same time told Urahara Kasuke how to enter and exit the barrier. After working so hard for a while, the mountain training ground opened by Yoruichi and Urahara Kasuke is no longer a simple one. It's a cave, and it really looks like a secret base. Yoruichi is not interested in things like setting up barriers. Although the teacher came here unexpectedly, she was a little surprised. However, I just took this opportunity to ask the teacher some questions in my heart. After seeing Gosuke Shigure and Urahara Kasuke finish their work, Yoruichi asked Gosuke Shigure, "Sensei, is the theory you told me at that time really possible?" During this time, Kasuke and I tried countless times, but none of them succeeded. Oh. Gosuke Shigure looked at Yoruichi with some surprise. Although he told Yoruichi about the idea of instant coaxing, he just wanted to know whether Yoruichi could develop instant coaxing earlier than in the original book, but he did not expect that Yoruichi could not wait to try it so soon. At this point in time, you don't even count Shindu as dead, so it's strange that you can complete instant coaxing. Gosuke Shigure slandered inwardly. In the original book, it is not known when Yoruichi developed the instantaneous, but it took Suifeng many years to perfect the instantaneous. Suifeng had already become the team leader when he was developing instant hearing. With the strength of the captain, it took a long time to complete the instant coaxing. It would be a joke if Yoruichi had finished instant coaxing right now. You know, it hasn't even been a month since Gosuke Shigure told Yoruichi the idea of Shunju. Although he slandered from the bottom of his heart, Gosuke Shigure did not say such words on the surface. On the contrary, after hearing some speculation of Urahara Kasuke mentioned by Yoruichi, he nodded approvingly. This boy named Kasuke is right. He wants to achieve instant coaxing, relying on others to perform. Of course, Kid can't do it. Because you don't know Kid, you came to ask Kasuke for help and let him perform Kid's behavior, which was wrong from the beginning. Only the Kid that you cast yourself can be compatible with your own white hits. The kid added by an outsider is ultimately made by an outsider. No matter how well the two cooperate with each other, they cannot be of one mind. Yoruichi, you are too eager for success. Gosuke Shigure criticized Yoruichi. I will tell you the concept of instant coaxing, hoping that you can slowly complete instant coaxing in the long years to come, but I didn't expect that you would try it so quickly and even hope to be able to achieve it in a very short time. Realized within a short period of time. Instant coaxing is a skill that is more difficult than high-level Shunpa. To develop a high-level Shunpa skill, it will take years or even decades of effort. If you want to complete instant coaxing in a short period of time, you have to easier said than done. You have to learn Kid first, practice Kid to the point of being qualified, and then practice white hits. 1.8, only after you have honed both of them to the peak at the same time can you try to do this kind of thing. Is that so? Yoruichi was also stunned after hearing Gosuke Shigure's criticism. She never thought about these things. After Gosuke Shigure told her the idea of Shunju that day, she kept it in her heart and was eager to realize it so that she could brag in front of her grandpa. But I never thought about how difficult it is to create a new way of fighting. Is this fighting method?
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.